Hello, well, it says it is live. The link should be up. It'll start playing and bug me in a second. A couple messages. Let's discuss. All right, so that's a problem. And then I just realized I think I did the wrong thing in posting it. So I'm going to fix this. Okay, so the problem is pretty sure I put the link in wrong. Let me fix that. Shit. You have to leave off a part of it. Okay, so there, delete that. And that. Also do it over on the other. Okay. All right. So I was just talking to Quintica. I'm getting it. He keeps thinking, oh, Justin, come back. It takes a while to get things going. Jesus Christ. Finicky people. I'm sorry I missed you, Justin. I think there's a thing here where now I have my pen. Let's see, I think I can drive. Hello. Oh, this is great. So there, that points over to this thing. That is a red triangle. And then that also points to a blue dot. Oh, that's great. I hooked up my little pad. Got a little cheap. Didn't want to pay for Wacom, but I got it. What is it? It's called Monopress. Had it for a couple years, I guess now. Don't really use it, but I figured I'd start. It's good for this kind of thing. All right, so this might be something to look at. I've been following this Oregon standoff because there's been, these guys have been broadcasting. I guess today they lost their internet, and but they're broadcasting and stuff. It reminds me of other times. It's surreal to be studying physics since politics since a kid, and to see things like when we went into Iraq, um, how to be reading bloggers that were in Iraq during shock and awe and stuff. Oh hey,
How you doing?
oh fine, and you're already broadcasting because I didn't turn that off, but I'm going to make it so that people have to be added. Let me hold on. It's the first one. How you doing, Quintica?
Pretty good. How you doing, Piero? Am I too loud over there?
No, it sounds good to me. I'm glad you came in too, and maybe even if other people pop in, we won't let you. You're surprisingly soft-spoken. I notice you don't butt in much, so it'd be nice to talk to you for a second and see if we can do some of this comment thread live, because I think we understand each other to a great degree, and yet you also, I'm sure you have the same feeling. This is a part of conversation, but you're like, hey, you're missing the boat still of what I'm trying to say. And I would like to say, I mean, one thing is I realize now I'm turning this into a mantra, but really my position is you and I have a vote in this system, right? Mm-hmm. You and I get to vote, and that's it. And then, but we have a hobby, a good and actually somewhat noble hobby, even unnoble, ignoble people. It's still a noble hobby. It's their good side or whatever. And you, I think, are I'm not saying that about you. I think you seem like an interesting person and a good person. So all of that. And this is a noble hobby of, let's tell each other how our thinking works. We don't have to say how we're going to actually vote, but in a way we're saying, well, here's the kind of vote I'm going to cast and here's why. And we can't really expect to change. I've never seen it happen that anybody that has a conversion from an online storyteller, it usually happens before they're in the conversation. right? There's exceptions. But
Uh-huh.
basically, it's not what we should expect. I mean, we're really just trying to make sure each of us understands how we're using each other's terms well enough to actually understand how the other person is getting to their conclusion. Now, in that, I prove contradictions in your system, and you think you proved them in mine, but that's just natural.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You would
right.
say the same thing that you proved, but I mean, I would actually, you know, I'm wise enough to know that in reality, we've both been proving things about each other's system. You know, like at the very least, even though I'm not going to change my mind, probably you're
Mhm.
helping me be more careful in what I say, and I would hope vice versa. That's the benefit we give to each other, even though we're not going to rack up another vote on election day for each other. And in reality, think about
Mhm.
that. You and I probably vote pretty similar anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I listen to you and Vic kind of go at it on some of the finer points, right? Um, I think Vic kind of said it. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was trying to tell you that you are not a social justice warrior. And I think what he was trying to say, or what I got from it, was that he's saying that our perception of what a social justice warrior is, which is the pejorative term, right, would not apply to you. But see, now if you take that term and you decide you want to make that your own, that term, okay, then it's like a challenge for people to use that even more in a derogatory way, but to refocus it on you. Now, I wouldn't use it in that way. And, you know, sometimes when I try to set up people for the Hangouts, I will tell people, like, if they ask if they're a real hardliner for, like, say, MRA or anti-feminist or whatever, I'll say, well, yeah, you got some guys, you know, they're kind of like social justice warriors. You got some other guys, whatever. But what I'm saying, it's like tongue in cheek. It's not an indictment on anyone, right? Um, However, when it's like a campaign, like you've seen that T-shirt company that does all that stuff, right? That they call themselves "fuck hate" or whatever, and
No,
they did the thing with Trump lately, right? And it was like,
no, I don't know them.
you don't? Oh, okay.
No.
Well, they're essentially all they are is they're just a bunch of provocateurs that sell T-shirts, and they make money off the T-shirts, but they kind of disguise the ads like they're PSAs, right? So the idea is that they're going to back you politically, and they want you to buy their T-shirt to represent a certain political stance. Now, when they do they did a thing on feminism where they had like these little boys and girls, kind of, you know, the boys dressed like girls and all this other stuff. And it really, you'd have to see the commercials. I can't really explain it enough. It's really exploitative of the children, right? And so sometimes people will call them social justice warriors because the idea is they're saying that they're not actually doing social justice work or activism. They're just exploiting a cause to further themselves, right? So when the term, so now somebody uses that term against you, okay, and it's not in a, say, a joking form, okay, then they're probably questioning your activism. And that's why I don't use the term
Yeah, but
as
they
to
always
you.
do that. But this is the thing. This is what they always do. When
Mm-hmm.
you're out there being an activist, people are always questioning and maligning your activism. I was called a traitor for trying to oppose the Iraq War. It's always
Right.
the truth. You come up with a new epithet well, it's like it reminds me of, and I'll just say the N word. I've said it, you know, on this show because or whatever you would call this if it's a show.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
because I believe in free speech. But on the other hand, this conversation, it would probably I'd use a lot, and I don't want that to be the point. So I have argued with people about the N word, saying, oh, well, it applies to some white people. And it's a certain kind of person. It's not all blacks, and it's a pejorative to this certain kind of person. And also, you're white, and it wouldn't apply to you, so you can't really be offended. You're pretending to be offended. It reminds me of that conversation.
Well, okay. I've worked in one of the jobs I worked. I was one of two white people in the entire shop, and I went in there with experience as a plastics fabricator, which isn't a big time thing, but it's kind of like carpentry, but it's just with plastics. Okay, so when I went in there, well, I'm sorry.
No,
Oh
no,
yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you. You're too easy to interrupt. I just am going to note down. That's an interesting subject, but probably not on topic right now. Plastic, I think I would love
oh,
to
I
know how
got
to
you.
do that. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, well, the thing is that when I go back there, okay, they kind of know from talking around and hanging out at the front office or whatever that I was getting paid a little bit more than them coming in because I came in with experience, right? And so, they were riding me pretty bad for the first few months when I was there. And it was funny because this one guy had called me Jagger because he thinks all white guys with long hair look like Mick Jagger or something, right? And what was funny is I just kind of rolled with it, and I worked with them, so it's not like I had much of a choice, right? But we ended up being pretty good friends, in the time we were there. Now, a lot of the stereotypes that they put onto me for being a white guy really didn't apply to me, right? But the thing is that it didn't crush me. It didn't hurt my feelings. It was like it made it a little bit awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, that's my phone on the other. But
If you want to take it, go ahead. It's a casual.
okay. Yeah, I just forgot to take it off the table, so the buzzer went. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that there's different situations where, say, an insult is more serious or more threatening than it would be otherwise, and in that environment. Yeah, it was kind of weird because you got maybe 20 guys back there, and I'm the only white guy, and these guys are kind of giving me the stink eye, and they're saying all this stuff. But in the end, it was just joking around. We got along. Everything was fine, right? Now there are other situations where, say with women, right, where they might get a certain stigma or whatever in a similar situation, maybe, and if they handle it a different way, then maybe it's going to be more destructive than another way. Like if people take every insult like so serious, then it kind of like invites a little bit of self-destruction, right? And I'm not saying that people should be threatened or insulted, for no reason like that, but then that's just the way things happen if it's not a direct threat, if it's just like ribbing or whatever. I wouldn't put much stock into it. They got to kind of get to know you, and then they can attack you on something that they actually don't like about you, right?
Well, in Hawaii, for example, it's a very old school racism, which turns out to be better. There's various different classifications where, they are suspicious of you, the haole moving into the neighborhood. But after a year or two, they got to know me as a person. And in other words, they were open to getting to know me as a person. They're racist. They think, well, most haoles are like this. But they're also open enough to individuality in some level to say, oh, but this haole's different. And if they, it's sort of racist to go, oh yeah, but he's different. That in a way is racist, but it's also open-minded compared to a Nazi level. I found out a guy had a Jewish grandfather. Now I don't like him. Kind of. That's. That's.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and it's an old school thing. Actually, a lot of the hate and violence in Hawaii was like going back in time. It reminded me of what I've heard, like about the 50s. Even in California, people after the bar, some guys go fight each other, and old school stuff that you get stabbed in California pulling that these days, and then that is what's coming into Hawaii too, is that people get really hurt instead of it just being young kids giving each other a few bruises, like any old ritual where you don't get too hurt. It's switched over, but anyway, it was like what you're saying where. People don't hate you as an individual necessarily. It doesn't mean that. That's a particularly demented version of racism, that you don't give an individual a chance at all.
Right. And like you're saying, there's an inverse to that, where if someone says, well, you are not, well, I'd say like a white guy, right? Like say somebody says, well, you're not like most white guys, right? Okay, so that they may not mean that as a racist statement, but it comes out as kind of like an inverse or a
Well,
racist
or there was a
statement.
Hawaiian woman teaching this little homeschool group of kids, and they're all haoles, white kids,
Hmm.
and as it happens, not white, but
Hmm.
Europeans, and there were tan skinned kids there and stuff, but everybody, it was local, and they had an ukulele and hula teacher, and I was there one day, and she was coming, and she's like, "Oh, it's so interesting. I've never taught a bunch of haole kids." Now, haole is like the N word, where some people don't think of it as bad, but then right before a bunch of guys jump you, they call you it. So,
Right.
it's like, what were you going to say? This little old lady wasn't racist. She was racially ignorant, maybe isolated, but it was a funny thing to say. And actually, I like haole as that term. I
Hmm.
use it. I like to use it. I think, okay, I got it. But anyway, I think that's the same thing you were saying, right? Like, if somebody, a
Hmm.
lot of racist things these days among people we love and care about and aren't quote unquote really racist is stuff like that. I mean, I have liberal, hippie, though also rednecky, uh, you know, parents and step parent on one side that's like fond of the, oh, meet a black person, oh, so articulate. He went to college.
Yeah.
He
Uh,
went to college.
right. Well, yeah, Whitest Kids You Know had
Yeah.
an episode where it was all these supposed to be racially insensitive banned pilots for TV shows, and one was
Oh, yeah.
called Black Doctor. Everybody is amazed that he
Yeah.
was a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
that's a part of this
uh,
SJW thing. Like, let's say I do admit, because I mean, like I said, in college, I was down there saying, we're not politically correct, we're liberal, that's dogma. I was down there saying, stop blocking kids that want to go interview with the FBI. I was already, so I understand that there's people that aren't, one, it's maybe just youth and sanctimony, but also that there are people that are, just trying to trump everything up and the rest of this. I admit there's that phenomenon. I guess I shouldn't be too specific in what words will apply to that. But I do acknowledge that there is this thing. I acknowledge that theoretically that is a target for SJW. The problem is it's a SJ hypocrite or something, or an SJ narcissist or something. I would just, even if SJ had to be in there, social justice warrior sounds like anybody fighting for social justice, and that is who it's used against. And I'm not talking about you guys, and I don't
mhm,
really mind. I have adopted it, but I'm just saying I go and make comments in Thunderfoot. I would in Anita's videos, but she doesn't allow comments. And
right.
that is a place where, yeah, if you say anything to the, hey, this was the point of that, or I make my patriarchy is really just the word for traditionalism, as a way to explain what it means to people that are acting dumbfounded about what it could mean, yes, I
Hmm.
will be called a social justice warrior. I don't really mind. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. Like, okay, just like liberal. I don't like the word liberal. I like libertarian. Libertarian
Right.
has come to mean a certain thing. So I'm a progressive libertarian, old school libertarian, and that's what liberal used to mean. But there's a point at which I'm not going to run from it when people say, oh, because you don't like to be called liberal because it's a bad term. That's the
Right.
point at which I'm like, yeah, call me a liberal because I'm for national health care. Fine. Okay. I have my
Mhm.
differences with that term that are actually different. It's because of my belief that, you have Jefferson Democrats that are liberals, right?
Mhm.
And they're just the liberal slave owners. Sure, slaves should be able to learn how to read and write. We try to keep them together as a family. We're good owners. That's liberalism as far as I'm concerned, right? It's liberal royalty that came up with that theory, as opposed to the royalty that thought, look, you can't treat them, you can't coddle them, you've got to
Mhm.
keep them disciplined. And both of
Right.
those are equally valid theories in my view, because and equally invalid, because thank God we didn't make you know the United States be like Jefferson wanted it to be. He wanted it to be slave plantations.
Well, see, I was a lot more hard left.
Hey Michael and Alicia, go ahead.
Hey, hey. Yeah, I was a lot more hard left when Bush Jr. was in office, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with some people from the PCCC and stuff like that, and the idea was that we were going to go in order to kind of correct the course, we were going to push for like this hard left agenda. But what happened is, you know, things kind of, you know, there's all these peripheral issues where it went way too far, I think. And I think right now what's going on in the left, and it's not every issue in the left, but I think this issue with free speech and censorship and people worrying about what they say on the internet, I don't think people should get on the internet and just do it just to slaughter people or attack people or whatever, you know, psychologically. But at the same time, we have to have a certain degree of freedom. Otherwise, the government is going to be the ones doing that, right? Like the Facebook experiments. Some college or something paid them off, and what they were doing was regulating positive and negative comments that people were getting. And so the thing is that this was, you know, why were they doing it? Well, it was for studies on depression and that, but they essentially weaponized Facebook, right? And there's people who, you know, they might have got nothing but bad news for a month or 2 months, right? Because it was being regulated. Whoop. Everything all right?
Yeah, I'm listening pretty good. I might have missed a few words as my wife was just talking to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was being regulated, but not just regulated. I see a few questions in there. Not just regulated. It was actually, the stories were actually crafted or omitted to see what the psychological effects would be on the users of Facebook. And this is documented. It's not the people that paid for it admitted to it. Facebook admitted to it. There's nothing illegal that they did. They just kind of, they took all the information, and some people got all good news, some people got all bad news. And see, now if they can do that on a small scale like that, and then you've got Facebook, Zuckerberg or whatever, talking to the Canadian government about how they're going to change the way they regulate speech on the internet, right? That's kind of scary, you know. And I'm not, you know, I think if there's a block button, I don't think it's bad. If you have to use it, use it. I've had to use it a few times, not that I wanted to, but I was actually told to by Twitter, because it was my show of good faith that I wasn't harassing these people who were reporting on me, right? So there are times when I've done that. And I don't have a problem with using existing tools, right? But I don't think we need to, you know, regulate everybody's speech or kind of censor everyone's speech like that. Uh-oh, we just lost on account of a...
Oh. That's his name, Handy Tool?
So another thing I wanted to cover, actually, because I think we're going to keep going through this in the comments, is this associational thing. And again, it's not an accusation. And also, I'm not saying associational logic doesn't make sense in a certain context. There are associations. For example, there's people that join an association with the title and the charter and everything else. So, and I'm not saying that, for example, again, I have to limit how much I give aid and comfort to somebody on the other side of an argument unless, you know, they also give me acknowledgments, so to speak, right? So, I mean, but on the other hand, I always give at least a little of an indication, and I'll go on and on into more detail, you know, like on what these people that, you know, I don't like the term aggressive liberal or whatever, but, you know, there are people. But anyway, back to association. So, their guilt, for example, giving aid and comfort, not that this is your position, but to a position that's kind of contrary to mine, you know, from the get-go, the idea of guilt by association, right? Everybody knows that that is a fallacy, right? It is also just a very practical thing that, of course, we do. If your child starts hanging around with a bunch of thieves, then they're either a thief or tolerant of thieves. So there is guilt by association. So even in a fallacy that we all know of as a fallacy, famous as a fallacy, no, in reality, of course, there is reasons humans have gotten away with thinking associationally. It's a shortcut, actually, to some truths in real life, practical truths. I mean, like, what should you do in this situation? Don't hang out with these people. It's a shortcut to that, where a full inquiry of learning all of these people as individuals and what they really believe would actually take too long and not come to the same conclusion, at least not in time, right? So it's, again, not an accusation, but what I'm saying is at the point at which people are like, what is mathematics all about? I don't know. I'll go hang out at 50 different departments of mathematics all across the universities of the country. I'll talk to those guys, and I'll come back and I'll say, it's evidently a form of Asperger's. No.
Yeah. No, that, okay, well, the association thing, okay, it's interesting because we have to, I believe we have to accept that there's a certain degree of association with everything. It's like what I was trying to say about character dynamics, right?
Right. I acknowledge this. Yes.
And so it's hard to draw like a really hard line on what is purely like guilt by association,
Well, yeah.
like if we're doing that, right?
Let's just sorry to interrupt. I'll let you start up again, but maybe this will be more fruitful in a sense. For example, I am ready to defend the social justice warriors because of their association with me, right? Some of them might learn how not to be dogmatic. They might be a 20-something, hey, this is blah, 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 but maybe they're in there at Yale like that crazy girl. It's supposed to be the safe place. You know, maybe they'll learn. I have reason because they are willing to show up at that protest. It's a while before they become counterproductive to it with their dogmatic view, and maybe they'll learn to have the open-minded view. Maybe they'll actually blossom in some better way. So I have reason to defend them. No, it's not. No.
I defend ideas, not groups of people. Okay,
look,
it's just that simple.
No, Vic, that's true in a principal way. Think about the practical part. I am trying to oppose the Iraq War, the second one, at a time when that made people were thinking you were defending the people that blew up the towers, even though everybody that knows things didn't believe that. All opinion polls, that's what. So people driving by, they're casting aspersions. They're calling me names. I'm trying to be part of a group that's big enough to say, no, you guys rethink this. So those social justice warriors that show up on that day, I'm sorry, but that is an advantage to me. If people will show up, then that is an advantage. So
Alicia, can you mute your...
Yeah.
I did.
Hey, we got Anna Contabad back. Oh, spoke too soon.
Yeah, and I'm going to show... No, he's there. I just have to let him in. So anyway, that's all I'm saying is, like, you know, surely you can see, and I know you could attack this as being practical and not principled. I'm presenting it that way. But I'm out there trying to have a protest, and if I'm going to get an extra 5,000 people that are from 19 to 23 that are a little bit like 19 to 23-year-olds, they don't really, you know, they might annoy you, but they're out there holding and saying, let's not do this war, then I want to do that because I think it would have been good if I successfully stopped that war with my compatriots opposing it.
I don't know. I just think that term social justice warrior, even just labeling yourself as someone who's for social justice is so redundant and useless. Nobody here is against social justice.
But you don't work for it, is our point.
Yes, we are. That's the thing.
Really?
And that's what Liber Module is trying to explain to you, is that we have different methods of working towards social justice. The reason we are so vocal and passionate about this, the reason you sometimes hear me raise my voice in here when I'm arguing against this social justice warrior ideology and stuff,
don't feel bad about
it's because I believe that what you're doing goes counter. It works against social justice. It works against socioeconomic progress.
Well, let's talk about the things I did. I went out and protested the Iraq War. How was that against social progress?
Well, and Vic, you're also the guy that's in here going, don't you believe in white trash? Don't you believe in white?
You don't believe in white trash?
All that. You keep pumping that.
Right, which is true, and it exists.
Hey, I don't want to argue the existentiality of that at the moment, but we can do this.
I mean, if you have a better term to describe...
What about have you been following the Oregon standoff at all?
No.
I thought it was
I wanted to hear more about that.
Well, I would like to know, well, I mean, I can inform you guys, but we'd have to be and take my word, you know, because, I mean, my view towards them is not softened, but... You know, listening to them, you know, there's the kid, this David Fry kid there, he's just as likely to have been, other than being slightly anti-Semitic and things like this, he he could easily be at Occupy Wall Street. He even mentioned it as a good thing that got corrupted. When he was pleading for why can't the social injustice of the Fed government, they're talking about MLK and stuff that you wouldn't necessarily. They're not all Ted Nugent up there.
Right.
Ted Nugent stuff. So I sympathize with them actually as activists. On the other hand, they're trashing there's 4 of them left up there. They won't go unless they can all be pardoned or given immunity or whatever. They change what they call it. The one guy that has a warrant is the guy that went on the video saying, "Get up here, and if anybody tries to stop you, kill him." And he's like, "What did I do wrong?" But there's definitely, they're definitely. I would not call them white trash because I don't believe in that. On the other hand, they're working.
Why don't
people that leave cigarette butts around their fireplace instead of even throwing them in? So, because what good does that term do?
It's just a very simple way to identify people who are...
Take their rights away and have social justice against them, right, Vic?
No, I mean, do you really not understand what I mean when I say white trash?
I do. I just think that you're so unsympathetic for them, and then your talk about social justice, albeit rational, simply, you would never up on.
You see, you're concerned with political correctness and coddling people, and I'm more about facing facts and talking plainly and honestly.
I'm just saying you're biased. You're biased.
Well, he admits that
I'm not being. What am I being biased about?
You're
unfair. No, I am biased. Let me take that back. I am biased, but I'm not unfairly biased.
As a white trash family.
Is there such a thing as a white trash family?
Someone that's in a lot of debt.
That family's white trash.
See, the thing is that you guys might think that I just think like of poor people as white trash. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that. Do you ever see the Wild and Wonderful
West? If the whole family is like, they're into that whole street culture. They
right.
Trash.
So you're born into being white trash, and as an individual, you would have to prove you're not really like the rest of your family, and that's the systematic bias because people are born into families they don't really fit in, and they're the black sheep, and yet. Actually, let me ask this again. Has anybody seen the documentary? I think it's called The Wild and Wonderful Whites or something, for this West Virginia family. I'll get in a second.
I just don't understand why it's a problem.
That would be what you're talking about. You could definitely call them white trash, but that's...
I'll say Honey Boo Boo is white trash,
there
right?
You go.
Like, and the guys that show up on Jerry Springer, that's white trash, right? But to defame them, to not embody their position, and as dumb or dumbed down or as unsophisticated as you might want to pervert it and move against it, that anti-sympathy to them, because I suggest that knowing you, listening to you from the outside a lot, Vic, and hearing you, that you're so unsympathetic to the lives that those other people lead, as if they could not be contributing appropriately to society, it's so telling of your limits. Which have your limits.
No, the difference. You know what? You want to know what the difference is? That we have different priorities. You're focused on the feelings of the trashy people in the society. I'm concerned about the effects of the trashy people on society and progress. When they're impeding and they're actively.
Wait a second. Okay, wait. I want to interject here. So because what I'm concerned about, actually, very little. I thought about this a lot. Is those 1 in 10 kids. Let's say you have a family that's just putting out 9 out of 10 criminals and blah blah blah. To me, that one kid as an individual is worth 10 times as much as all the other people in his family, and I do not want to meet him and treat him like the criminal his family is when he's actually such a person that even in that environment. No, let me finish. I'll be done. Even in that environment, he is still a good person. So let's say you go to a neighborhood and it's putting out 90% of the people who are criminals. That 1 in 10 person needs to be connected with. He is the solution to that.
I agree. Now, Piero, honestly, if you were to represent my position, if you were to go ahead and say what Vic's position is on this, would you actually go and tell him Vic thinks that white trash children are the problem?
No, but that's
am I talking about children here? I'm not talking about children.
No, I'm talking about you being complicit. No, but Vic, I'm not saying that you are that way. I'm using the opposite. The fact that you are not that way, but you have this opinion, and that it results in a systematic bias against those kids in that family that are going to be...
There's no bias against children here. No one's biased
So
against
you're biased
children,
against the virtue
Piero.
of the family not teaching them in a proper valued system.
Yes.
But you
I'm
see
against
that
the
kid...
parents for not... Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually against the culture. I'm not... Look, wait,
Okay,
hold on.
wait, we got to talk one at a time. Who wants to
Okay,
talk?
hold on. Let me just explain my point, because you guys are like mischaracter. You're misrepresenting me here. Really, I'm less focused on the people than on the culture that causes people to behave a certain way, right? That culture needs to be pointed out as a problem. Now, the difference between us, Piero, is that, take that last video that you made about culture, right? If you sit back and reflect on that video, you spent maybe, like, what, 30 seconds acknowledging the existence of the glaring cultural problem that plagues the black community. But then you spent, like, the rest of it, which is, like, what, like 8 minutes or so, all talking about poverty and all this other stuff. So basically what we have here is just a different... It's like a chicken and an egg problem, where you seem to think that poverty is the cause of the glaring cultural problem, crime, whereas I believe that the cultural problem is what's driving the poverty and the crime.
It's a cycle.
So this is why you have a totally different focus. We both acknowledge the same problems, but you put an entirely different focus on the poverty. It's like you're taking more of like a top-down approach. I'm taking more of a bottom-up approach.
No, but here's the issue with that, is that it's a cycle. So they could both be said to cause the other, right? But just like you could say employees charge the companies their salary. No, the salary charges, you can set up where you want to do, where the origin point of your mathematics is. The issue for me is you can't go in and change somebody's culture. What are you going to do? Start telling the kids bedtime stories instead of their parents? No. You can only affect, as a society, the environment. And the environment where
how did we do it with how did the LGBT community do it? How did we suddenly go from a culture that like 15 years ago was completely bigoted against homosexuals? People had to stay in the closet, and then just a decade later, all of a sudden it's like a merit badge to be gay.
I'll tell you, I lived through that, and I would say the first step was a bunch of out in your face, yes, I'm gay, village people type homosexuals started having parades and said, fuck you, we're glorious. And that was, boy, people were just like, I don't mind them. And then people started being like, I don't mind them being gay, but they shouldn't be in your face. I don't flash in your face why I'm heterosexual. Well, the reason they did it is because that's step one on finally you realize that the president of the company is gay.
So you recognize that there are ways to change culture, right? That by speaking openly about things and honestly, especially influential people like political leaders, you get political leaders like, imagine if all these these prominent figures that have been these race mongers like Obama, Eric Holder, Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, imagine if we managed to shame them into changing their tune slightly and focusing a little more on personal responsibility instead of blaming the system.
I don't think
constantly externalizing problems and completely avoiding the glaring,
Okay, my turn. Look, some of you guys have had the stage. I'm cutting you off.
Okay, Mike,
I'm totally...
I'll let you get away with that this time, I think.
Right, well, all I'm saying
for a while, so go ahead. But
you're dominated. Why, are we in the peanut gallery or are we in the peanut gallery?
Go ahead. You can have your turn. I'll let you get away with it this time.
The idea, like at first, Vic comes up, right, and his example is, first it's street people, then he says black, right? He didn't go to Appalachian hillbillies talking about how we're producing too many banjo players in the economy and the welfare system that they might be on because maybe they're artistic and shit. No, he's not going to say that. He's going to default to black, refer to crime, and suppose the idea of running alcohol over state borders back in the day wasn't a crime of these hillbillies that are banjo players, that are Caucasians in the Appalachian Mountains, right? He might not even think to reference that group, so he's going to classify by necessity, by race, by crime, and they're going to be black and they're going to be inner city. He's already shown his propensity against that class, and maybe it is strictly for all of the upset that he's got about the upset about American history and slavery and all of this, and just like, let's make the slate clean and move from there. Well, a lot of people are already, but he's demonizing the shit out of them, and he'll continue to demonize the shit out of them to get them to do it their way, instead of saying, you know, maybe that population is representative of a new group where the law structure needs to be changed. Oh, can we actually have that mutable of a law structure? No, it'd be too un-American.
Michael, let me ask you a question, all right? You seem like a fairly intelligent person. Now, if you had to honestly ask yourself why it is that I focus more on the black problem, in the black cultural problem in their community, than the hillbillies in the Appalachian Mountains and their banjos, can you think of a rational reason why I might focus on one group over the other? Come on. I mean,
maybe you were harmed by them personally. Maybe you're getting fed some propaganda. Maybe you got beat up. Maybe you know it. Maybe there's more. Maybe something. I don't know. Why don't you tell us?
I can hear you.
Well, I'd like to know why you don't care about
go
the
ahead.
culture.
Quintica, go ahead.
Wait. Yeah, let's stop.
I want Quintica to answer for me.
Wait. I'm supposed to be the chairman. Quintica, fine. Also, I don't know if Anaconavad is another one that doesn't break in like Quintica. So, Quintica, you go. And if Anaconavad, you were waiting to say something, how about you get to go next? And if not, then...
Sure.
Okay. Well, what was the question specifically?
My question was, why do you think that I focus more on the glaring cultural problem within the black community
and
the problem
and banjo
well, I can
hillbillies in the Appalachian Mountains and their banjos?
Well, I can tell you what white trash is under the parameter of what white trash is. Okay, good.
Well, okay, guys. Where I'm at, okay, is I'm right by Dearborn, right? And Dearborn's the biggest Middle Eastern concentration of people in the United States, right? Okay, I have Inkster on one side of me, which is all black, and it's named Inkster because it was a black city. Okay, Detroit is north of me. Okay, now we rarely have problems come from Inkster, right? As far as with racial problems, blacks, whatever. But almost always when there is any type of crime, it's out of Detroit, right? So there is a cultural thing going on there, but there's also an economic issue. Now, this isn't to say that it's one race doing all this stuff, but there is certainly a culture in Detroit, and there certainly is a group of people, not everyone in Detroit, who does this, where they have no qualm about stealing from you or whatever, right? And so now I don't think I agree with Vic that a lot of it is there's this PC issue where we can't say what a problem is. We can't really address it because if we do, we'll be accused of being racist or we'll be accused of being against the culture or a people or whatever. But there are obvious groups of people who commit the same type of crimes, or it's a frequent thing. Now, what are the answers to that? Well, economics could be part of the answer, right? Certainly jobs, if we had more jobs, but then you have to give the people incentive to work. You know, it's got to be something that'll pay and all that other stuff, right? So I
mean, the bottom line is, it's okay. I'll ask a different question. Maybe this will open some eyes, Michael. Wait, let me ask just one quick question. This is another question. It's like, why do we focus more on the Muslim problem, like say Islamic incidents of terrorism, than say Christian incidents of terrorism? Why do we focus on one more than the other?
Look, you haven't been interested in this Oregon thing. It's a bunch of rednecks, many of whom would qualify as white trash by any definition you could possibly offer, are up there with guns, and they're still there, 4 of them.
Great.
Armed occupation of federal property where 16 people go to work normally that can't go there. That's not of interest to you.
No,
suddenly, that's not.
Would go there.
Oh, it would certainly become an interest for me.
Well, it's been a month or more. It's been more than a month. When does it become an interest to you?
If these people
one guy got shot so far.
If these people suddenly started committing half of the violent crimes in this country,
Then
right?
all the
And
Muslims-
they started rioting en masse every few months, crying some sort of oppression, then yeah, I would probably focus a
But
lot
why
more
aren't
on
you
them
interested in
than
this
on-
issue of who creates over half of the economic crimes in this country? Because that's not African Americans or any other white trash or anything.
Well, you're talking about the white bankers again.
Insider
right?
trading.
The point is, you can't reduce these problems into racial characteristics. It's individual characteristics that makes one person a con man.
No, culture is important.
Vic, have you ever heard of chavs in England?
Chads? No.
Chav, C-H-A-V.
No.
Have you ever heard of Neds in Scotland?
No.
Have you ever heard of Gopniks in Russia?
No, can we get to the point?
Yeah.
How are they all?
Hang on. These are all segments of various countries' societies that occupy the same position as your sort of streetified African-American stereotype does in the United States.
Okay.
The Neds in Scotland are usually almost exclusively white, ethnically Scottish people. The Chavs are the same. They're almost all exclusively white, ethnically English people. The Gopniki in Russia are white Russians. But they hang around dressed in tracksuits, spitting sunflower seeds, drinking booze right out of the bottle, smoking crack, or committing petty street crimes, wearing baseball hats sideways. They're called the Abeng in China, the Flaite in Chile, and they're all ethnically homogeneous with the larger community. But they would get along perfectly with your streetified, stereotypical African-American dropout.
Okay.
I look at it as a larger society, as a larger phenomenon, rather. Every society seems to have an underclass. Every society seems to have an underclass. The United States, and where I live in Canada, they are often racially identifiable, but not in all societies.
Somebody has to
fulfill that great.
goal that we systematically expect.
I don't care about the color. I don't care if they're brown, black. I mean,
why do you think going after the culture is going to work? It's the situation, the environment that creates the creature that's going to define what evolves there. How could that not be obvious?
That was the point that I was going to.
Hey, welcome, Stizer. I'm not going to let you speak because you're so loud and shit. Okay, here we go. Just kidding. Well, I was serious about you being loud, but
I kind of got that.
Not letting you speak, I was kidding.
Oh, Stizer, tell us about Chavs and Neds.
And Scouters.
Say about what?
The Chavs and Neds.
Chavs and Neds? I don't know what a Ned is. I know what a Chav is, though.
Carol, let me ask you a question.
Ned is a Scottish Chav.
Carol, let me ask you a question.
Really?
So
Okay,
before I heard you say, before I came on, you actually said something like, I don't think there's any chance that anybody's going to change my mind on any of this stuff. Right?
No, not my mind. Each other. I don't find.
Okay, well, whatever.
In the debate.
So my question to you is, what would it take to persuade you that the primary problem here with the gross disparity in the crime rate amongst poor blacks in America, is the culture that they're raised in rather than the poverty? What would it take for you to...
It doesn't matter. I see those both in a cycle.
What culture are they raised in?
First of all, you would have to show me
American culture, or are they raised in black culture?
There isn't really a black culture that's unified between urban,
that's what I'm saying.
living in the ghetto, and being Bill Cosby.
But are they raised in black culture, or are they raised in American culture? Does the black community create these dropouts, or does American society create these dropouts?
Hey, Vic,
I don't think there is an American culture.
Have you ever seen Finding Forrester?
Then what culture are you referring to?
Vic, have you ever
culture?
seen Finding Forrester? Vic, do you
Is
ever
there a black culture?
Hold on. It's to Vic. Is there a black culture?
Yes, of course there is.
But there's an American culture.
Maybe in a vague sense to distinguish it from,
What
say,
does black
Japanese
culture
culture.
mean? Wait, obviously
right?
you're going to say not all
Like
black
clearly
people are
there's a
this.
difference between
They
American
exist.
culture and Japanese culture, right? Clearly there's a glaring
So
difference.
is there a difference between the black
No.
culture? Is there a difference between a black culture in the United Kingdom and a black culture in the United States?
I
Well,
think so, yeah,
As a
probably.
black person,
Yeah,
I'm quite sure.
I would say that there probably is, yeah.
Is there a difference between Chicago blacks and New York black cultures?
Well, no, actually there is. If you talk to British
no shit.
that are in certain cliques, Jamaicans.
There are going to be.
I've met Jamaicans.
Wait, you're literally talking to one. I don't mean to be fucking rude,
but what
but
I'm saying
I
is,
know you are white of skin, Sizor. So do you want to explain your "we're all black" philosophy for a second and give you the floor?
Me or Vic? Because Vic seems to know more about it than me.
No, you keep saying every hangout how you're
Okay.
black.
No, I was
You're
just
totally-
curious that Vic knows what black
skin
culture
is
is as a
very
white
pale.
guy. I just thought that was really
Because I'm a white guy. I
Yeah,
mean,
you are-
I don't have eyes.
sorry.
I can't
well, you're
observe.
pretty fly for a white guy.
Well, you've never been called a nigger, so I'm quite interested to think that you know what it's like to be called a nigger when you never have been called one.
Well, yeah, I guess I've never had cancer.
Wait, I want to stop. Let's
Yeah,
stop
but
for a second.
being called a nigger ain't the same
This
as
is getting
fucking like
unraveled.
cancer.
Wait a second.
Not all
I was
humans get
gonna-
called nigger.
Cancer victims also.
Oh,
That's fucking dumb. Not all people are called
Wait.
fucking. Everybody
Stop,
gets
stop,
cancer.
stop.
That's
It's
just the
unraveled.
worst straw
It's
man I've
unraveled.
ever heard in my fucking life.
Hello. Hello. Okay, let's get back to what I mean. I thought it would get unraveled. People talked about that last week, so it's like let's try to organize it. It doesn't mean we can't talk at the same time.
I'd like to know how we're going to make progress.
When I want to break
Let's-
things down to definitions, I'd like to know what people mean when they say things. Like, so for example, let's ask this question. What is a bias, but is a bias necessarily a bad thing? Is a bias necessarily a bad
Right. I would say
No.
no. A bias is not necessarily.
Yeah,
I
you
have
have
many
to have
biases.
bias.
right?
Sure.
So
You
the
have to
question
have a bias.
is it an unfair bias?
Bias. It's Vic's
Right.
bias that's
No,
it.
no, hold on.
Mike-
This is what I
Mike,
was saying.
Dasu, what do you think? Is a bias automatic? Or let's
I
just
think-
go enough that we can hear each person's opinion on whether a bias is necessarily bad.
No, I think everyone has to hold a bias of some sort, or their flesh would leak off out into the ground, right?
Right, like every amplifier in like electrical engineering, every amplifier has a bias. That's the power. That's how it fucking makes a broadcast.
I
in the
prefer
first
my
place.
blood stays inside my veins instead of outside my body, right? That's kind of a bias I have.
Yeah, that's
So, but
that's
what I'm
not
suggesting,
unfair.
it's his bias that my bias is not sympathetic to. And it's only because of his positioning approach, but I don't mind it as a hawkish other voice. I mind it as a hawkish other demanding that we all agree that it's correct voice. I mean, have your say, Vic. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to let you know from outside your dome, your little metal cap that you wear, is a bunch of people that think they could handle and maybe peer into the problem a little differently and maybe a little more better. More better.
Yeah, with more
No, I disagree.
sensitivity.
I think the
More
method.
accuracy.
I think the social justice warrior movement and their ideology is regressive. It is moving us
Oh, that's
backwards.
such a new word.
It is
I didn't
taking
know there was a movement.
It is externalizing problems rather than internalizing them, rather than making people take personal responsibility. People, helping people help themselves instead of just giving handouts and then coddling people
What
and
do you mean
treating
handouts?
people
Here, wait, okay,
as
so
though they're
round
invalids.
two. Turn
Brave
to.
man, Vic.
How about term two, racism? What is a racist?
Indicative
Define
of
racism.
network.
No, I'm going to work my way there. The next thing was tradition and traditionalism. Is tradition necessarily wrong? Because here's what I think all of the social
No.
justice warriors and myself have in common is that we some of us are more reactionary than others, but we kind of are allergic and sick of traditionalism, sometimes to a ridiculous degree, like thinking Yale shouldn't be a place of intellectual space, but a home. That's ridiculous. I would say it's gone too far. But anyway, so tradition, is tradition a bad thing?
If we're going to view traditionalism kind of as the opposite of liberalism, then I would say no, because I think both extremes can be bad. So I think liberalism has kind of gone too far.
Traditionalism is not opposite of anything.
Right.
Wait. Traditionalism is however we did it in the past. It doesn't even have to be coherent. Right, it doesn't have to be fair, coherent. It doesn't have to be.
Well, when I think of
wait, there's liberal things in tradition. Like in the old days, over 100 years ago, you were supposed to give a wandering stranger a meal. You know, we don't really do that anymore necessarily, and that's traditionalist. There's liberal things.
All right. Well, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. I guess what I was kind of conflating traditionalism with conservatism.
Yeah, no, different.
Yeah.
Because the conservatives were anti-royal in a sense.
Is there anything radical or liberal about the Confederate States of America? I'll ask you that, because we're looking backwards into the past now. And one would say that traditional people would have some sort of sympathy for the Confederate States of America, because, you know, in a certain way they took American values and, you know, individualism and states' rights, at least in that sense, and they kind of inflated their value in terms of what people thought of that time, in that era. So in a certain way, the Confederate States of America was a radical and revolutionary sort of...
I was actually about to say that, Andy, because if you're from the UK, America, in the sense of the history of the United Kingdom, is pretty fucking radical.
Yeah.
You know, and Vic talks about conservatism and libertarianism, it's regressive. Well, most of the planet looks at your election and goes, yeah, they're pretty fucking mental in the United States.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, the internet. The internet, by its very nature, the networking that's unprecedented prior to within just 15 years, right, is unprecedented. Therefore, an external value dialogue equation, whatever we're doing on these social networks, is affecting our politics and our reality. To say it's retrograde or negative is a misnomer against the exteriority that all populations are going to be facing. And so you call it that if you want, but it's here. And it's happening, and it's not regressive.
Again, the thing is, we have to honestly look at the situation realistically, as it currently exists. Not as we wish it were, not idealistically, but as it actually is. So, like, back in the day, you know, decades ago, there was clearly a systemic problem. You know, there was the Jim Crow law, segregation, slavery, all these things. Clearly, that is a systemic problem. That is not something that has anything to do with personal responsibility. It's clearly something that needs to be fixed within the system. So we had the civil rights movement. That was great. We had the LGBT movement. That was great, right? But I feel like now we've just gone too far. Now it's like we've reached like equality under the law, at least, for these two groups. But people want to go further. It's like, no, we got to keep going.
I want to go.
No, according to who?
I want to go next. Wait, I want to go. Here's the thing, though. That's why I've been pointing out to in the MRA as an advice. It's not a Trojan horse. It's like, why not? As a matter of fact, I've been thinking I should actually do something about this, because for a while I have felt, you know, feminism really, you want to go to the key point, wherever the pressure point is, and prioritize that. So we are not disconnected from Saudi Arabia. It's not just random. I didn't say Indonesia or some other country that we have some vague ties to. I'm saying Saudi Arabia because our ties are so tight. We're codependent with Saudi Arabia. Feminists should be defying that codependency and regularly trying to get in the news, you know, protesting Saudi embassies and things, because there is a worldwide problem. Couldn't we accept it's up to debate what biases are left in our culture where we've cured so many legal wrongs, so many things that were obviously legally an issue, we fixed them. We don't know how much it's latent in people's attitudes. I don't think we should say it's gone. I don't think we should jump to assuming it's behind the motivation behind but we could go agree that fuck you, Saudi Arabia. We're going to stop making you rich, at least. Maybe we won't stop making you rich, but we're going to bitch at you while we make you rich. you know, that's
Right,
part
right. No, I totally agree with you. And then that's why in different contexts, I might actually refer to myself as a feminist, right? So if I were to move, if I'm talking to a Muslim or something, or someone, or if I move to Saudi Arabia or something, then I would certainly label myself a feminist because it has a totally different connotation in that context. But when you're talking about here in modern society, where most of the grievances
A modern
that
society that doesn't
feminists
have a healthcare
raise
system.
have to do with like, oh, I feel that the word "to" is sexist, and oh, I don't like the word "bossy," and all this bullshit, and the wage gap, which is kind of a myth.
No offense, dude. I know you think America is the next best thing since sliced bread.
I never said that either.
You're way behind the Europeans when it comes to social fucking shit.
Yeah, I never said that.
I'm telling you,
it's certainly better.
No, but you're saying no, you're saying modern, right? Like you live in a modern society. A modern society that has
relative to Saudi Arabia, it is.
Even Saudi Arabia has a fucking healthcare system that's better than yours.
Oh,
yeah, but that's
Stone Age compared to most of us.
Yeah, but that's isolated. Hey, wait, Steizor, that's isolated to just how pathetic it is that we don't have a social health care. It doesn't add up to the sum. I mean, they are so backward for modern technological, and it's known that they are doing it on purpose. They're keeping their society backwards. It's a family raping, keeping the society manipulated. Yeah, so you can't say, you can't attack Vic on his comment.
No, but I can't.
Recognizes the problem.
It's like,
cultural biodiversity.
Really, you're going to quit.
He doesn't have any respect for culture.
You guys, you're on your own for like 5 minutes because I'm going to go.
I don't have any respect for what?
Addiction.
For cultural diversity, cultural biodiversity. Right? Different.
Fine. You can be as culturally diverse as you want. You can be a multiculturalist, but first of all, don't force that down everybody's throat. Don't make that seem as if it's some sort of like.
It's not forced.
You don't get virtue points. You don't get virtue points for peddling multiculturalism. That's number one. But that's fine. I don't have anything against multiculturalism in general. But when that particular culture that you're trying to defend has overtly, antisocial norms.
Antisocial norms, right? Like Roe v. Wade is kind of antisocial norms, right? Right, Vic?
Are you trying to paint me as like some fucking super right-wing Republican conservative?
Because you're taking that position.
You understand that I voted for Obama, right? You understand that you didn't. You understand that I'm pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I'm anti-gun.
Vic, you sound like one, dude. The way you talk is like completely different than obviously the.
How about instead of trying to pigeonhole people, you just listen to what they're actually saying?
Okay, so that's the problem. We all the inner city black people causing crimes. These are you them internally and pigeonhole.
Because you're speaking to an individual here. You're not speaking about a culture of Vics.
Anti-pigeonhole,
right?
Like when you're
so if I were speaking to an individual, listen. Michael,
but you're painting an entire population.
If I was speaking to an individual inner city black person, I would be addressing his particular views, right? But when we're talking about general statistics, and
you're making a stat argument.
Yeah, there we go.
Based on
he's gonna say, well, more people smoke pot who are black than white. We know that's not the case. On average, white guys and black guys smoke pot at the same rate. But black guys tend to end up in jail more than white guys. You know why? It's because you have more white cops who arrest more black kids.
And then they
so it's completely inconceivable to you that just maybe the reason there are more black people is because they commit more crime. That's inconceivable to you.
Vic, how about this?
Oh, wow, yeah, that's so crazy. Oh, my God. What an...
Come on.
Hey, Vic.
Do they commit more crimes because they're black or because they're part of the underclass?
Yeah, Vic. Okay, look.
Seriously,
they get arrested.
Can I ask a question?
Well, hang on. Take Skyzer's point. They get arrested. The black guy gets arrested, where the white guy doesn't. Therefore, he comes out of jail. He's got a record. He can't get the job. He still needs to provide food for himself. So he commits another crime because of the previous bias.
Well, that's interesting how, like...
You will not see the stat that way. You won't emblematically do it. You'll just then...
Michael, how do you know that that is the reason? That why there's the...
It was actually...
What's the reason, Vic?
It was actually...
It's on it, Vic.
Hold on, wait.
I'll tell... No, I'll answer
hold on. I'm going to tell Vic... Wait, Vic, hold on.
I'll answer the question.
Frantically to, like, jump in. Alicia, I promise you can go next, right? Vic,
Okay.
that statistic that I just told you was released by the Department of Justice, you fucking idiot. That's how we fucking know. Alicia. Sorry.
Well, that was the statistic that I was wanting to ask the question about. I've heard that statistic myself. I do not deny that that statistic is true. The problem that I do have with it is you have a black man caught in possession of marijuana by a white cop. That particular person then has to go through the judicial system to where, you know, black, white, my area is predominantly white and you're fucked.
Yeah.
I know this.
That's true. It's a sad truth, but it's still the truth.
Because it's white lay minister judges, it's white lawyers that are very right-wing Republican. But what I wanted to know is in other areas, I mean, you know, even though a white cop arrests that particular black person for that possession, there's a whole systemic process that person has to go through before they end up jailed.
Exactly what Michael just said.
I was wondering, I mean, is this systemic problem so bad in the system everywhere that this is occurring? Or are areas like, say, like mine, where it's a really high propensity that that's going to happen to that black person, that's raising the numbers as opposed to other areas where they might be a little bit slack?
It's literally called institutionalized racism, right? It's not the system. It's not the system that's broken. It's the individuals who participate in the system that skew the numbers. Now, the human race ain't perfect. We all know that shit, right? And people hold crazy views about life, right? But they do have jobs. Police officers, firefighters, nurses, you fucking name it, right? But they're still individuals. And they can affect other people's lives. And this is the problem. Some communities face a higher proportion of that bias because, not because the system's broken, it's because the people in the system are fucking biased towards black people. And that's
that's what I was
so
trying to get
let me ask you this, guys.
You start with that cop, and then you go to the lawyer, and then you go to the judge, and then the whole drug court, whatever it is the system is. You're like, keep coming across people that are always going to be against that particular person to where they railroad.
When statistically Asians are shown to have a lower disposition towards violent crime, does that mean that whites are being oppressed more than Asians institutionally, and that explains?
You know what? Remember Pearl Harbor, dude. Remember Pearl Harbor.
Would that account?
I don't know what you're trying to defend, Vic, but you sound very racist inclined to me.
I don't care how I sound to you.
I think it's a cultural
thing. And I'm simply asking a question. If you think you're assuming that the disparity here is all attributed to some sort of institutional racism. So I'm asking you the same question. So since Asian people statistically seem to commit fewer crimes per capita than whites, then does that mean that there must be more prejudice? There must be some sort of institutionalized racism against whites as opposed to...
That's ridiculous. Come on,
Vic, going back how far?
What country has a higher rate of violent crime? The Philippines or France?
How is that relevant?
It's because one is white, the other one is Asian.
Okay, Annika, let me get this out of the way. I am not a race realist. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Because I don't think
I'm not accusing you of.
No, I know, but it's
something. I would like to say something, Vic. You don't seem like a race realist, but you're bringing up these issues about how we should worry about these racially oriented cultures first. Where I say we can't do anything about that. We have to worry about the reason that there's always these kind of cultures, whether they're made up of Japanese people or Scottish people or English people or Muslim. There's always this culture. Because, my argument, let me finish. My argument, and most liberal argument in geopolitics, is that it's the systematics of the culture. It's the cultural abuse. It's the way things work. It's the abuse of the labor. Whoever is the poor labor is also coincidentally happens to be maligned as this scumbag that's worthy of raping and oppressing and taking what they have because they're not really very good people, and you're not really taking anything. You're giving them an opportunity. You're not raping them. That happens in every culture with every ethnicity.
Yes, it does.
It's got to be the systematic.
But it happens with higher propensities.
Wait, so it's got to be the culture, the ruling class culture. You're not judging the culture of the rich people as playing a role here, and it does.
Okay, well, let's talk about that rich thing again. That rich culture.
There is one.
Culture of like white collar criminality.
Not you either, because you're barely getting into the 1%.
Let's talk
Roosevelts and Rockefellers and people that have wealth for 500 years.
Let's talk about this culture of white collar criminality that you alluded to in the last video, right? Now, and I answered your question. The reason that we focused more on the cultural problem within the black community is because it's just more apparent. It's more pervasive. It's more people draw attention to
the fucking media. Fuck you.
Let me
fucking stupid cunt. I've heard people like you all my fucking life.
Okay, wait, Stizer, hold on though, because we're trying to have a conversation about it. Stizer, we gotta have the conversation about it. Means you have to tolerate that. Vic, you can't materially say. Don't pay attention to that to the detriment of paying attention to the fact that.
Let me finish.
Hold on. We know the bankers have taken trillions of dollars. You can't say that it doesn't rise.
Hold on, listen. Right. I don't know. The thing is, the reason that the black cultural problem, we focus on it more, we seem to, is because we interact with it. I interact with it all the time. Right? It draws attention to itself when it riots through the streets and causes people to, cry wolf about racism just every few months. You know what I mean? It's rampant. It's everywhere. It's in your face. Hold on. And in contrast, this culture, quote unquote culture of white collar criminality at the upper echelons of big business and banks and stuff, I don't interact with that. I don't see that.
You do.
I don't even know. I don't even know that this is actually caused by culture.
Your taxes are bailing them out.
And even if it's true,
you think if you bail them out $1 trillion of bailout.
Hold on.
The world just went through a fucking financial crash, and you don't fucking on Wall Street. Are you fucking stupid? Really?
Keep shit.
Wait. Yeah, we'll get in with that after he finishes. Let Vic finish. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. Go ahead, but wrap up. The essence, because I was starting to get it.
The fact that certain bankers have been corrupt and done shady shit, and certain people like Bernie Madoff and people like that, stockbrokers like a shady, corrupt stockbroker, that doesn't necessarily that could just be an individual thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a.
It's not individual. It's not culture.
But for the sake of argument, God damn it, for the sake of argument, let me go ahead and just I'll grant you that there's some sort of cultural problem, white collar criminality, cultural problem when you achieve a certain amount of wealth and power, that people try to conform to this culture of corruption.
Black people do
it. But the reason it's not the focus, it's because it's not in your face. We don't have to deal with it
in your face.
Day to day. Right? I don't have to. When I call up customer service, I don't have to deal with the rudeness.
Okay, my turn.
But when you pay your taxes, you do.
Exactly. The point is the number of people that it affects, right? The number of people.
It affected everybody.
The number of people affected.
Dude, wait.
Hold on. Let me clarify.
every fucking month in the United States.
The number of people who are afflicted.
That they don't exist.
The number. I didn't say they don't exist.
Wait,
shit, I already.
Wait, you guys. Vic finishes, and then I'm going to go, and then guys, you can go.
The number of people.
Me out. I got dibs. I had fucking dibs. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Okay. Michael can take my.
Let me just finish my point, and you guys can have the floor.
Let me just finish
my point, and then you guys can have the floor.
You can take my place. I'll go after Steinzor.
Because I want to clarify this position, because I don't want you guys to go railing on something that I don't actually believe. Okay.
And with
what I'm saying is that the number of people afflicted by this culture of white-collar criminality is fewer. It's less. There are less number of them.
Wait. Okay,
right?
Great. Got it. I would disagree, but Michael, you go.
Okay. This is how it disagrees. This is how it disagrees, right? There's more nepotism and more insider trading going on all over this world, right? That is behind the scenes. That's not in the streets marching Black Lives Matter or any other protests that you see. There's more of that affects worldwide economy in terms of bringing money groups together, traded, and this is a crime, right? Sharing insider information in this modern viral world where we have encryption issues is nothing, and it's happening all over, and the money is sucked up, and you're like, oh, okay, it's not a problem because it's not in your face. Yeah, it's happening behind the scenes, and it's affecting the whole stinking planet, and this is an uprising that's showing up in the face strictly because of guys like you that are holding this blind's eye to the problem, because if it is in the shadows, somehow it's justified.
I never said that. When did I say? When did I say? Wait a minute. When did I say that? Hey, we shouldn't deal with white corruption.
Wait, Vic.
When did I say that we shouldn't? No, the question was, why do I focus?
Comment. Wait, Vic. Just remember the complaint. Let's not immediately react. Welcome to Athena, and then let Steiser go, and then Vic, obviously you're being talked to. You can have your response that you're.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to be really quick and say hello to Athena and Effie. You need to broadcast Effie because he's in the room as well. He's unbroadcasted, so broadcast that guy. Anyway, right. Back on point. What I'm going to say to Vic is exactly what Michael said, right? You're saying that the black community thing, which is the point, is in the media. Do you think the media, who's a multinational corporation, wants to talk to the average American, or the average person in particular, about being fucked in the ass? The United States nearly broke the entire system because of greed and lies, right? And you're telling me that these fucktards are not eligible to go to jail? When someone who's in America...
When did I say anything that we should give a pass?
No, you just said it. You just hold it. You just said that one thing is not the same as another thing. And it is. It affects every person on the planet who uses fucking money. These people are telling us that the world's run out of money. And if we don't save the banks, the world's going to break. The world's going to stop spinning. So we bailed the fuckers out with trillions and trillions of dollars. Bailed them out.
Okay, we shouldn't.
And not one of them has gone to fucking jail.
What is the relevance of it? When have I got a relevant point here in this hangout that we should just absolve all corrupt bankers of all wrongdoing?
You're saying there's more effectively saying...
Wait, let's, you were saying
what I said was the reason we focus more on it, the reason we is because it's in our... It's like, for instance, if there's a bunch of mosquitoes invading my goddamn house, right? I'm going to be talking about that because that's afflicting me more than the fucking white bankers at this particular moment.
That's an illusion. The white bankers. I think we've demonstrated, and we actually all know that the banking crisis has affected us. It's also not quite as in your face.
They're
different biology,
right? Like,
but if you're smart, you know it is in your face. When it costs you $1 trillion to fight a stupid war and $1 trillion to bail out the bankers, you know that $2 trillion has to come from somewhere.
Look, it's just a different. It's just a different type
well,
of
look,
problem,
I looked
right?
up the cost of inner city crime, and let me just say, I was surprised. The cost of inner city crime is about $1 trillion or $2 trillion. They said a year. Okay, so that goes a little bit in Vic's direction, that maybe it's more in your face cost-wise than we realized. actually. So you know, whatever.
That's not the,
let me
black people.
explain. Look, it's just a totally different issue. When I'm walking through a city, or I'm going to travel, let's say, to the Middle East or something, right? I'm thinking about my violent crime. I'm thinking about my personal safety. So I'm going to look at particular, places where I'm likely to be more targeted than others, where the the disparities exist in crime rate and stuff. But then when I'm going to go do some sort of financial transaction, well, then I'm going to look at those statistics as well. You know, which person's going to less likely to screw me over, which person's more likely to screw me over, etc. So it's just two separate issues. You can't it's almost
But
like a red herring.
Vic.
Like we're talking about the
You're
issues.
just trying to justify.
We're talking about violent crime.
I'm sorry.
Vic,
We're talking about violent crime.
Vic, what you're doing is trying to justify your own biased bullshit. That's
no,
what you're
he's
doing.
explaining it.
The
It's not
bias is
justifying
justified. No, the
He's
bias
explaining
is
it.
justified. I am justified in
So
doing
if I'm racist, that's okay.
Wait a second.
Racist. Fuck off, man.
But Vic, you're a businessman. Surely you can understand or imagine that your industry or particular kind of business would be attacked or raided perhaps by people in a position to manipulate the very economy that you live by.
Yes, and that's a separate issue. Right.
Right.
I'm not afraid
that
for my
happened
life,
in real
though. I'm not
estate.
afraid that they're going to stab me or shoot me when I interact with them, right? It's a totally different type of problem.
But see, to me, that almost seems like you think I'm a little naive, but I've lived in the inner city, and I was not naive. I protected myself. But you think, I mean, fair enough, there's a naive aspect from your point of view of what I think, but you're looking, to me, you as a businessman, it seems naive if you don't acknowledge the danger these international corporations
Of course, I acknowledge it. Of course.
I
don't know how much there's a culture behind all of that, but just for the sake of argument, I'll grant you that there is some sort of like culture that causes this, and that would need to be addressed too.
Sorry.
I'm not saying that shouldn't be addressed.
Vic,
I'm not saying that.
Vic, we make movies
based
on Wall Street for a reason, to show that it is a culture. Have you never seen Wolf of Wall Street? Have you ever seen the newest one that they just made? These people literally have a culture of ripping people off. That's their lifestyle.
Is that a culture? Yeah, Vic, do you admit that kind of thing is
based on a movie? No.
No, not based on a movie.
Real life.
No, based. I mean, that's our reference point, but no, based
look,
on there are guys that think that way about trading, right? Is that a culture? The people.
But that's the thing. That's the thing, Piero. Like I said in the comment section, it would be pure speculation on my part. I am not involved in that culture of white-collar criminality. I don't see it.
Look, I'm trying to get into the definitions here sometimes as we go around.
I can
Wait, stop, you guys, please. For a second, just hold on. No, stop. I'm going to be the one that goes when we all stop, just because.
I don't broadcast fucking Andy. You just rejoined the room. Broadcast.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll continue arguing. Whatever.
You bastard! Never forget what I was going to say.
Welcome back, Andy.
I can only speak about what I see, Piero. I can't. anything else would be pure speculation, right? I see the decadent culture. Okay, I'm talking about that culture.
Is there a frat culture? And again,
it's not the whole black. It's not all of black. I'm saying
culture?
there's a subculture within the black community that is very pervasive. You see it everywhere. It's not just in inner cities, but it's literally everywhere, right?
Well, no, the examples you said of cities that have changed.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying
those
is
are people coming from the urban culture, so of course they bring their culture with them. The question is, in 2 generations, is it going to be like that? Or is the bad cousins that grew up originally in Detroit, are they going to move away and the people left are going to be like, I'm into the peace?
Well, that's the thing. If we continue making apologies for it and we continue explaining it away and saying, it's because of slavery and institutionalized racism, then they're not going to see a problem, so they're not going to try to reform their culture.
What do you think about the rednecks taking over federal property? And they're not even getting shot.
That's fine. Oh no, that's fine.
Look, it's the same reason we focus. It's the same reason we focus more on the Islamic. It's the same reason we focus more on the Islamic problem than like isolated instances.
No, but in a given instance, But
right?
in a given instance, they just let those guys have that place and use all this federal equipment.
The problem
Drive
right,
they let them
right.
drive the federal, backhoes, and they let them tear down fences and all kinds of shit. And they're still waiting because why? Those guys are up there. They want to kill us. And it's like,
well,
if they wanted to kill you, they could have killed you any day for the last fucking month.
The
And imagine if they were black
and
or
then let
Muslim.
it go. Yeah,
Yeah, what's
exactly.
that all about? How is that one incident not as important as any other?
I don't even know how. Can we like? Why don't we start focusing this conversation a little more on how to resolve this impasse?
Why don't you
how do we? Sizor, can you?
Wait. Yeah, no, go for it. Vic has this floor. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So why don't we Why don't we move the conversation towards trying to somehow come up with a way where we can resolve this dispute, right? Because it seems like we've reached.
That's what he's doing. He's distracted. He's talking about the Oregon guys to give a spectrum on this issue.
Okay, so hold on.
He is in the discussion.
So hold on. So let's imagine, right? Because I assume that you will all acknowledge that we will always find instances of racism, sexism, homophobia, you name it, right? But just because we find certain instances of that doesn't mean that is the primary problem to some sort of like glaring, socioeconomic issue, right? Right?
No.
I would grant
just
that.
because we
I would grant that from what I understand you meant.
So how do we determine what the primary problem here is? Because we all acknowledge that there's a cultural issue. We all acknowledge that there is a poverty issue. We all acknowledge that there is institutionalized racism to a certain extent. God damn it, Stizor.
Because it doesn't take rocket science to understand that
you made a
humans
good
are
point, Dick.
fucking
It's good.
ignorant
Let him
and
answer.
bigoted. It's a human condition of the individualism.
Well, let's just go through. No, he asked a very clear question. Let's answer it clearly. How do you? Well, okay. Can I maybe propose you finished it if I get it right? Okay. How do we know how to prioritize which of these issues really is the most pertinent? Exactly. And which might be a distraction and thus, counterproductive. So, I don't know how we do it. I know what I think it really is, which is the economics. I believe in the follow the money principle, because even in my own life, I'm trying to make a living, and if you want to figure out what I'm doing, following the money would probably explain more than my great philosophy that I have, right? So just to be honest, I think if you follow economics, you follow how people survive, and the reason is because it's not bad economics. That's how we fucking survive on this planet.
No, it's how you've been told to survive on this fucking planet.
But how do you know that follow the money? I'm not really
money
that's just a cliche, Vic, but I'm just saying the economics of who helps each other survive, that defines who the enemies are, who the allies are. That is where I would go.
And that's
right?
a
I mean, the way I do it,
economically oppressed, like their labor is raped, and they don't get a fair share of their own economic labor, the natural output of their labor. That is my priority, and I believe it comes to war is what it always seems to have justified not paying a laborer what he's worth.
The reason why corporations need to be managed more, because the corporations have so much power right now that they can isolate everyone that they want to. It's
literally modern day slavery. Just because they took the shackles off doesn't mean that you're not a slave. If you look in a dictionary and look up the word fucking debt, it's actually related to the word fucking slave.
Wait. There's a couple of people here that don't interrupt well. It's just a deficiency on their part, a deficiency. So on account of odd, I'm curious what you think the priority is, because to be honest, I'm kind of thinking maybe you have a spiritual. People need to learn.
Very non-committal about.
People need to watch the sunrise more or something.
He's a fence-sitter.
What do you think on the priority?
I think that the priority actually is a lack of goodwill and a greater likelihood to point the finger. I like the old saying that I repeat a lot. How does the saying go in the States? The Southern white guy hates blacks as a race, but is perfectly wonderful with them as individuals, whereas in the North, this is all outdated, of course. the northern white guy loves blacks as a race but can't stand being in their presence.
Right. Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, there's truth to that. It's the
same thing here in Canada, and I think that like in the South, I've actually seen the interaction in the South more than it is even here in Canada. But the issue to me is that there is a level of mutual respect there, even though they understand that the relationship is in many ways antagonistic. There is still this idea, okay, we all got to live together type thing. Whereas I think that people who sort of are more likely to point fingers and point out what is wrong with the dynamic are probably not the ones who actually have to live with it on a day-to-day basis. Well, I live in a community that is overwhelmingly Aboriginal Canadian. Okay, and you ask anyone else what it's like to live, they think I live in a war zone. I don't. I get along great with my neighbors. It's not a problem. But you go to the white suburbs of this very same city, and people can't grasp how I manage to live here because they don't deal with Aboriginal Canadians on a daily basis. Goodwill.
See, the thing is, Anakantavad, you said like, oh, the problem is that we're pointing the finger and we're trying to blame. Well, the thing is, we have to point the finger at the problem in order to fix it. If you can't identify the problem, then you can't fix the problem.
But wait a minute,
no, because the problem might not be the solution.
Pointing a finger at a person.
Vic, I didn't say it's a person. I'm pointing to a culture.
That culture is made up of people.
Bang, bang, bang. Look,
I agree with what he says because
the thing is,
my town is a tourist town, and I live in the Appalachian Mountains, and there's a divide between the tourists and the people who are native to here. And you're more likely to not get a job or make a better company or do anything like that if you're a native because there's this stigma around it of being, you know, the poor, the this and that. So.
You know what I want to say to Vic, right? And this is more so to Vic. That there's a shitload of really poor white Americans actually. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's more poor white Americans than there is black Americans. That's why they're called a minority. Black people are a minority in the United States, right? So,
but if you
but they run meth labs and they don't kill people.
The problem is that the per capita crime rate amongst poor whites is lower than the per capita violent crime rate amongst blacks.
You know what? I need a soundboard so I can leave.
How do you explain that disparity?
What about the per capita crime rate amongst poor white people versus poor black people?
Bang, bang, bang the gavel. Wait, bang the gavel right now, banging, because I also wanted to ask Quintica, also deficient of the interrupting chain. I don't know what the problem is. But anyway, I really want to know also, I think this is a perfect question. So from your point of view of not wanting to interrupt.
Oh, don't do that.
Quintica. So how do you, and the reason it's important to me too is, you know, I mean, it's not nefarious, but it's because, as I've been saying, you guys are all professing, you believe in justice. You just think that whatever. But so what would be the priority then of, or how do we find the priority was actually the original question that they've relayed.
Yes.
We need to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, the priority. Well, you have to identify the problem, like what Vic's saying. You have to identify the problem that's at hand, right? And then after that, okay, after you address that, then you have to look for the systemic causes, right? And you can't do it the other way around, right? Because you have a problem that's immediate that has to be taken care of, and then you have this other problem. That's like the thing in Flint, going on in Flint. Okay, the immediate thing is that they've got to get these people water, they've got to get people out of there, they've got to take care of people that are sick. But then after that, we know that there's a problem with the mayor, the way that he ran things. There's a problem with the emergency manager. There's a problem with FEMA showing up late. A problem with the governor, right? Now, all those things have to be addressed, and there's no easy answer. I don't know an easy answer. No. But the first problem is that you have to take care of the people who are being affected right there on the spot. And
what do you mean? The government has to, or? You personally?
Well, the government, at least on a local level, right?
See, because does everybody know? I mean, TJ is in a part of the United States that, you know, very arguably and with no insult intended, is an example of the collapsing. Now, it's still way better than a lot of countries, you know, situations. But for the United States, certainly, you know, Flint, Detroit, this is a collapsing situation where, you know, you're in the middle of why that's important, right? Like we might be, I think about the conversation we've had, we might be getting at you at, okay, dude, you're in a collapsing area. It had all of the above problems. It had banking, it had good industry that abandoned it, NAFTA, it had all of this shit, and it had inner city crime committed, you know, disproportionately by African Americans. It had all of that, right? So which one do you think has destroyed Flint more? Was it the black crime in Flint, or was it NAFTA?
Or the government fucking...
Well, Canada.
Well, okay.
That's a good one, huh? I came up with a good one. I'm going to remember this one.
Well,
you might answer it, but it's tough, right? Because look how bad the banking role is in all of Detroit's.
Oh, yeah, the banking role. I did want to...
As well as African-American sort of uber-liberal government also fucked it up. Which was worse?
Well, and I do want to add right here that Vic did say he voted for Obama, and I voted for him twice, right? So it's not. It's not.
It was a mistake. Like,
right. but I mean, it's not like you're this
really
crazy racist.
Look at the choice.
You know what I'm saying?
Look,
you know that joke where the racist guy says to me, "I'm not racist. I've got black friends."
Sorry.
That's exactly.
Wait. No, I really want. I'm serious though. Look.
I'm not racist.
Quintica.
Okay.
Quintica is from this area. I would like to get an extra, you know, level 2 of, well, how does that stuff play out? All of the above problems. How does it play out in the crisis that we all know? Flint is in the news right now. Detroit, you know, the last 2 years, if not longer. I mean, RoboCop.
Well, you have a bunch of people in Detroit that don't want to pay their water bill.
I'd buy that for $1.
Why would you want to pay?
They think they shouldn't have to pay it, but I should have to pay it for them. Okay, you have a bunch of people in Flint that feel the same way. Now, granted, you have a lot of unemployment in Flint. You have a lot of unemployment in my area, right, in Detroit. Granted, you have that, but you also have people who abuse the system, right? And there are incentives to hire non-whites, right? There are incentives to hire women, to hire you know, black people, whatever, minorities, right? Okay, so there are incentives, but a lot of people, or at least a subset of people, if you want to categorize it that way, they would rather take advantage of the welfare, or they would rather take advantage of the unemployment till it runs out. And some people you can't blame them, because the way the incentives are set up, they're actually paid more to not work than if they went to work, right? So I think that has to be revisited. That has to be went over, right? But the other thing is, like you say, with the bankers and all that, there's a lot of investments in properties up here that get abandoned. And so then we have all these abandoned malls and all this other stuff, because there's all this big planning on potential business, and then it doesn't happen. So you do have people messing up at the top there too, right? But I think
to separate. You haven't really separated it out, and I don't blame you, because it's hard to separate these cycles from each other. People demanding things, governments that are stupid, and then it's not the liberals that were kind of going too much into debt or whatever you could complain about. It's some more conservative guy that doesn't spend a little amount of money to protect children's health, and so it is hard to separate out. Of course, I say it looks to me pretty obvious that things like NAFTA and whatnot that allowed the whole Rust Belt to not have any of its steel or auto, which I see auto as just a part of that, really, that, you know, you can't not see that whatever the culture is of the people that decide what these businesses will do, they had enough money to stay in America. They didn't want to share the money. They were they were allowed to make a decision to take that money as profits. And so instead of staying in the U.S. and keep these families going and working for them, high quality labor, they decided, you know what, it's mostly robots. We could do it with Mexicans, blah, 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 and we go down there. You can't, that seems to me, not that you have to see it this way, but to me, a lot of what motivates my view is that that's a choice those guys made. They could have been just plenty rich enough, fly, take vacation wherever they want in the world, just like they do now, and have made these families in the, I guess, the northern states or whatever, survive the way they had been surviving 70 years or 50 years. They abandoned
the first thing
our
we
culture.
should do is have oversight for things like the EPA and for corporations in general. Somebody who can oversight this stuff and
you can't do that. You can't. But Athena, the problem is you can't do that in the United States because it's legal to bribe politicians. It's called lobbying. If a businessman can pay off one of your fucking members of Congress and the Senate, then they will pass a law for them. Not for you, for them. We need to get money out of politics altogether.
Right. I totally agree.
No politician should ever receive any money.
Citizens United.
They should not even be able to trade, nor their families. Their immediate family should not be able to trade any money. They should not be able to set up any corporations, any default dumping. They're all being bought and sold and shifting it, and they're running on it. It's called the normal system. It needs to be ripped out. Thank you.
Yeah, well,
For all
yeah,
the people,
go ahead. Go ahead, Alicia.
I was going to say, for all the people in the oppressed areas such as I'm in, you sometimes feel like he was talking about the abandoned malls, people purchasing things and then them sitting there abandoned. Do you think that sometimes this is purposely done as a tax write-off?
I believe so. I don't think that it's always done that way. I think that there's too much investment on potential that's really not there, on bad bad predictions, right? And I don't know that something like that could be accurately predicted if the economy's going up and down or whatever, right? But yeah, we have so many buildings here that are like almost brand new that have just
we
been
have
abandoned.
new ones that were just built. We have new ones that are just built that are sitting empty, alongside the older ones that are sitting empty, that they'll go and build this and they'll start throwing all these rumors about we're going to have this, we're going to have that, and it never happens. And so the city has given incentives to these companies to come in and build, and I don't know what the number was. I saw it on the front page of the newspaper recently, but it was millions of dollars that they had paid these companies for them to move to this area and open up business to try to help the unemployment rate. Well, guess what didn't happen? Even if they built the facility, poof, they're gone, and money out the window that could have went to other things.
Right. Well, now, okay, this gets back to it's kind of tangential, but I was watching this thing they were talking about fat shaming, right? And they were talking about how people should be proud of their bodies, and it was this ad that it was telling people that no matter how your body is, it's okay. Don't worry about what you eat. It's all in your head, like any problem you might have with that. And and I was watching a rebuttal to that, and they're talking about all the health costs, diabetes, all this other stuff, right? Now, with the insurance plans the way they are, with the Obamacare, they call it, or whatever. Okay, there's still people paying into that pool, and it's still based on the idea that most people are going to be healthy while you're paying for other people that are sick, right? But now, if we're encouraging people to be sick, to make themselves sick, if we're encouraging people to not act responsibly, then they won't act responsibly. And this goes to, jobs, as far as if we're paying people more not to work than what they would make working, they're not going to work, and so policies like that need to be changed, and the way that people think about their responsibilities to society have to be changed.
So you're an advocate of currency.
When you say living off of stuff, is it the same way here? We have, pardon me, but what we call it is the stupid check. And, you know, if someone is just like, oh, what you say, subpar IQ or something like that, you know, they end up getting like an SSI check. And then they don't bother. They go live in, you know, cost-assisted housing. They get food stamps. They never hit a lick at nothing. And we had an argument recently, and I said, you know what, I don't care how. If you're able-bodied, you can teach someone like bricklayers or something like that. They have to have someone to pile the bricks up so they can sit and, you know, actually lay the bricks. I said it doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence to tell that person, walk over there, bring me some bricks. Go back over there, bring me some more bricks. Now do that all day long, and they would have a job. But no, that's not the way that it works. So I just didn't know if
those jobs usually pay not very much money to just carry bricks, and they usually will just go to Home Depot and pick up a few Mexicans, and that would be their labor.
Yeah, we don't even have a Home Depot. So.
I'm just saying, you know, that's the way it is in my town.
Well, it would be essentially the same way with these people. They would still get their, you know, their thing. It's just that I guess I'm just saying that, you know, in some cases that when they say, like, this person is unemployable because of their intelligence level or lack thereof. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put them on that SSI disability thing because, you know, and it is just simply because they've measured them to be subpar IQ or whatever their testing does.
I'm on
disability. People
disability.
don't try to get it. I am too.
But mine's physical and mental, both. I have to have my boyfriend of 18 years is my caretaker, and it's basically because of repetitive concussions and car wrecks and stuff.
Well, I was going to say, I'm trying to find the camera. You see this?
Yeah.
That would be called a massive erosive inflammatory arthritis that every bone in my body has that. So, yay me. And so, I normally look like a normal person, and I hate it that my hands are like that, but you know, it's like someone says something to me, and they can get pretty ugly if you even halfway look like that you are a, you know, able-bodied person. I'll say, okay, put my hands up. This, you see this? The rest of his body's that way too. What the fuck do you want me to do? Start carrying my fucking x-rays around with me?
You can't see the lumps in my body. So I get that a lot. So
yeah.
I got a broken back.
I have failed back surgery, so I'm not trying to turn this into a wine thing. It's just that, you know, on top of that.
You two women should be forced to have abortions if you ever get pregnant. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm past
I'm
that
not going
point.
to have another kid. Don't worry about that.
Oh, so you've had them. So you're bagging on the system, and you have kids. And what a nice likely story. You guys have physiological issues?
I've only been disabled for 2 years. I had my own company. I cleaned houses for years and years. High-end. I was a high-end cleaner, you know, in the rich area in Highlands, North Carolina. And I had a good reputation for a cleaner. And
well, here's the thing. I've just got into this economist from the 1800s, Henry George, and what he's proved, and it's totally true, it's obvious, that who's taking the money? So people that are productive but find themselves unable to be, you know, become disabled to whatever degree that interferes with that. Maybe they just can't compete in the market. It doesn't have to be that they're totally unproductive because there's a relative thing with the market. Who's taking the extra money? The fact that we have farm machines where one guy can do the work of 100 guys used to do. Where's the extra 100 times extra money that we would give to our cousin?
It's going
on hard times. No, answer, wait, I'm about to finish. The answer is it's the landlords. It turns out Jimmy McMillan, that guy from New York, the rent is too damn high, he's right. What happens is the value of land always goes up, and that's where the extra money goes, is into the value of real estate. And otherwise, we'd have totally enough money to help people that, whatever, their skills become unwanted, whatever there's, it's not just physical disability, though, in my knowledge with a family of contractors and carpenters and kind of working, whatever you call that kind of craftsman, it's usually what knocks them out is, fell off a roof one day, never really could recover and do it again, the job again.
The problem, it's not so much, I mean, we're arguing about the minutiae, right? The problem is how we treat each other as human beings.
No, it's the landlords. Kill the landlord.
Alright, kill the landlord. That's fine.
We'll agree on how we
kind of system.
That's right. Oh, I just realized who else was right about not just Jimmy McMillan, but Eddie Murphy. Kill the landlord.
No, hold on. Well, what I'm saying is,
I'm not the only one. Come on, Quintica, you remember what I'm saying.
We're focused on the minutiae.
What
I would say in regards to like Vic's points and some of your points is that,
who is that character?
How we solve this problem of inequality is just treating each other better, right? Yeah. Because money is just a concept, right? Now,
and who do you think he needs to hear that message the most?
I think we all as a human race, for the survival of our fucking species.
Yes, but certain people need to hear it more. Certain people should take that advice more than others.
No, we all need to take it, because you're laxy-daisy about white-collar crime. You said that, it doesn't affect fucking... Yeah, it does.
I didn't say it doesn't affect us. I said it doesn't affect us in his...
social construct, so you therefore don't need it. And you
exactly right. It's an idea. Money is a fucking idea.
The people afflicted with that problem are fewer in number than the people...
Hold on, Vic. People came up with these ideas throwing rocks and stones and nailing people to crosses and shit. Like, seriously. These guys were pretty smart in their day and age, even though they used to think the world was fucking flat with dozy cunts, right? But the point is that we live in the year 2016, right? We can do shit way more efficiently, way better, and we don't actually need money. We don't need money. We just don't. It's a construct of how you're supposed to think. The valuation of other shit is just that, a valuation. The government dictates the price of stuff to you, not the other way around, Vic. If I wanted to go to the shop and someone's got a chicken in the shop, for instance, he would say to me, well, what have you got? Right? I'd be like, I've got a cow. And he's like, okay, well, let's trade. That's called a barter system, right? The government got rid of that shit. They tell you the price of the chicken and the fucking cow. That's the difference, and that's called currency. If you don't know the basics of economics, don't open your fucking mouth.
Poverty does not account for the point, because even when you control for poverty, even when you control for poverty, black communities tend to commit more violent crimes than other demographics.
Why are you so obsessed with black communities?
Because it's the most glaring problem, that's why.
Only in America?
Okay, well that's what I'm talking about. I don't know anything about other countries. I'm talking about America.
Well, you should.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Hold on a minute, Vic. You just said, well, I don't know about other countries. Fucking look them up. Because the rest of the fucking countries on the planet, look at the United States.
What is irrelevant?
The first thing that comes to our mind is you're a bunch of racist fucking cunts.
I am not suggesting that.
We can take a
I am not, obviously I am not suggesting that just being born black makes you more highly disposed to being...
which is even worse. You insinuate, which is underhanded
tone of saying... You're putting words in my mouth. You are making
black people in America.
Really? You are assuming that I'm some sort of racist.
Wait.
Which brings me to a title of this hangout.
You know, I wasn't paying attention, so let me ask, what words is he putting in your mouth exactly?
He thinks I'm a racist. He thinks I'm a fucking racist. Basically, he's basically saying that I'm.
Well, how are you not a racist? You said the main thing is racially oriented.
No,
cultures.
no.
Yeah.
What happens is, right?
Well,
People,
look, like I believe it's poverty. Wait,
People
Vic. Let me set it up because I'm just going to say what I think is happening is that poverty, whether it's a poor Irish or African American community, or as if Anna Kanavad pointed out in other nations, these communities, kids get taught crime. It's not very racial. It's more a little pocket that in society people fill. Like, you know, there's marsupials that look like cats because they got to fill this evolutionary hole in the system. Well, we have this hole, and it really isn't very racial. It's more economic because somehow in every culture, not just European, but China, everywhere, people get forced into these roles. So you keep saying, it seems to be, that there's a racial aspect African American culture as opposed
why. I'll explain why.
Not Chicago, Chicago inner city culture where people happen to be right. But okay, explain why. But wait. Explain why. But I'm just saying, to me, like you're saying with the rich bankers, they happen to be this, and it's not really cultural. It's like, well,
no, I don't know that. I didn't say that.
They happen to be black in Chicago. They happen to be Muslim in Paris. They happen to be Chinese in China. They happen to be whatever race was available for that role. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, as it happens, people tend to self-segregate along ethno-racial lines, right? We just do it. We feel more comfortable with people of our own race, our own ethnicity. It just tends to happen. Okay, that's why we have a Chinatown.
Cyber, let him finish. I also disagree, but let him go.
That's why we have a Chinatown. That's why we have all black communities. That's why we have all white communities, and people tend to leave when a lot of black people start moving in because they don't feel as comfortable anymore. It happens. They self-segregate, right? They self-segregate. Now, when that happens, a culture is formed, right? In those communities, there is a culture. There's a Chinese culture, an Asian culture, a white culture of sorts. There's a black culture. It exists. These cultures exist. And I'm saying that some cultures are less progressive, more antisocial than others. Some of them foster a certain hostile.
Such a
so all right then, can I
embrace a certain street culture, a certain.
All right then. Damn it. If this is the case, then Vic, right? I would say to you that white culture in America is very backwards because in the United Kingdom, Germany, Scandinavian countries, when you go to the elections, the only thing I hear from white guys or Republicans in this case is women's rights and God. You know, the United Nations released a report. The most radical nation of religion is not Saudi Arabia. It's actually the United fucking States. You've got more evangelical crazy bastards in the United States than anywhere fucking else.
Sucks.
So is that a white culture then?
Yeah.
No,
in
it's
America,
not. No,
unfortunately,
actually, I think
there is a culture of religiosity.
That live on the planet.
There is a.
There's other white people that live on the planet.
I'm not talking about the planet. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm talking specifically about America.
Yeah,
why do you keep trying to move this to a global discussion? I'm not talking about...
Vic. America isn't the planet. This is your problem.
Really? I had no idea. Thanks, guys.
Okay, wait. Well, but wait. No, we know you know it's planet.
Good. Well, did we learn today's segment? That can be the question.
Look, we know you admit it's the planet, but it also seems like you're denying it. I've been having this argument with Quintica. I've been arguing with Quintica, like my whole issue of, look, you can't say that feminism is inherently corrupt when you have places like Saudi Arabia where it's obviously
and that's why I said that if I lived in Saudi Arabia, I would identify as a feminist, or if I was speaking to...
What is about the border? Because to me, we buy a bunch of their oil and make them rich.
Context
matters. They buy a bunch
of
our iPhones and take our money, and we're codependent. You can't pretend that because there's a border that says the border means you don't care what happens on the other side. Yeah, you do. You're buying all their loyal.
Matters. It's like within a particular business, you could have certain cultures happening within a particular business, right? Particular company, there could be certain cultures.
The Saudi royal family is
We're supporting
in this conversation. We are obviously talking. At least that's what I was talking about. I'm talking about America. I'm not talking about other countries. I don't know.
Let's say there was some other guy that had a business. He wants your business. He wants to sell his service to you, or vice versa, have a mutual agreement. He also is successful. He's not desperate, but he wants that. You find out that he, openly beats his wife. He goes, there's an article in the paper. Yeah, I like to beat my wife. She's into it. And, there's no law in our county. You might not do business with him, or if you did do business with him, you might say, try to get him to stop or something, right? It's not related to your business, and that's what's going on with Saudi Arabia. They are obviously, by American standards, no two ways about it, abusing their people. Places like Indonesia, I think they abuse their people and kill derived energy as far as I'm concerned. But it's hard to say they actually do. But in Saudi Arabia, they behead people. They don't let women drive. It's obvious. And we are business partners with them.
Just about.
Yeah, do something about that.
Look. I can totally acknowledge that there is, of course, institutionalized racism to a certain extent. There is a certain sexism that exists in certain institutions to a certain extent. The question is not whether it exists. The question is whether it exists to such a degree that it's causing, say, the wage gap between men and women, which doesn't really exist. Or the relatively...
Wait, you gave me an idea. Wait, you gave me an idea.
Or that it causes...
If one woman doesn't get a job... If one woman, I'm just gonna say this: if a woman doesn't get paid the same as a man, that's just fucking sexism.
Wait, I want to shake. Wait, you guys. I want to wait, please. We've got to wait a second. I want to shake the Etch-a-Sketch here and just, is everybody and I'm curious, Kevin, your opinion on this, though it's a little bit giving aid to the enemy. But has everybody seen this Yale girl that was screaming at the...
She was just one of them weird knobheads who's
probably... was like, I don't need an intellectual space. Yeah, she's just an individual. But she said, I don't need an intellectual space. I want a safe space. Now, I want a home. That's right. I want a home. And I thought, are you kidding me, Yale? Because how could you be so, you're so selfish, acting like it's a people thing, and yet you're at fucking Yale, which automatically means even if you got an inner city,
you're rich at that point.
You're either rich or you're an inner city person that's been very, very privileged and lucky and should feel lucky.
Yeah, I would go with lucky because you don't get that many people who are like.
I mean, when you want to make up a name for a person like that abuses the idea of social safe space and stuff, that abuses it, I agree. That woman was ridiculous.
She's a fucking yuppie. It's the same with Black Lives Matter. When they interrupted Bernie Sanders, it's like even the black guy on Comedy Central.
No, I have more sympathy for them.
He said, right, it's all well and good trying to get your message across about Black Lives Matters, but there's this little word that everybody knows. It's called manners.
No, I disagree.
I watched that and I felt you just made that movement so bad. Them girls.
No, they didn't. No, they look a little bit like they put their foot in their mouth, but it's good. They brought notice to their thing, and they gave Bernie a chance to go, here's my position.
He hired one of them from
I think it's been a positive thing because in activism, you can do that. You can go and disrupt your allies' thing, and it turn out good. But anyway, Kevin, I wanted to know, Kevin, you probably have seen that video. What do you think? I mean, can we admit that woman is making liberalism look bad or something?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say two things briefly, if I can. Firstly, on the woman at Yale, she's a fucking idiot, and it's that kind of person that makes feminism and liberalism look bad.
Yes.
She makes a rod for all our backs because we have to sit there and some people feel they have to defend because she's part the tribalism bullshit. Yeah. But she's a fucking idiot, and frankly, she's completely wrong. Right. I'd like to make a quick point to Vic about his thing about black culture in America. and the point that Stein made in response to that, and how that could they fit in. If Vic is right that black culture is a certain way in America, and that what Stein says is that it isn't that way in other parts of the world, then surely it isn't inherently a black issue. It's what is American culture doing that is leading black people.
Exactly.
No, what has American culture done? What has America done? No one here is denying that slavery, the slavery and the Jim Crow laws and apartheid and all of that led to the decadent subculture within the distrust.
That's an American thing.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about, Stiles.
Yeah, but you're blaming black people for being black, and
I'm blaming black culture for the way that a lot of them.
Okay, you've admitted there's 15 black cultures. There's 15 black cultures, and some of the black cultures.
Yes, and I'm referring to the decadent one. I'm not referring to the one.
But you don't. Wait, Vic. Let me put it this way. What about this? Just to be bold about potentially racist ways of forming things. As you have willing then. What about this? The so-called white trash thing and this particular black culture that you're talking about. They're similar. They're more similar. They're more similar. So why look at it as black culture? Why not just say that the thug culture, whether you're white? Wait, dude. Come on. Watch the Hong Kong movies or whatever. Let's base it all on movies.
It was all over the news.
Wait, let me finish. I'm just saying, look, there's that kind of culture in Hong Kong made of Chinese, and in Detroit made of African, and in Liverpool made of Styzor.
Oh God, no! Don't involve me now.
No, Liverpool is a city. All these cities have their culture. Those are all more similar than other African Americans that are more like doctors or whatever. Or even Ben Carson, who I hate, he obviously has raised himself up to an intellectual culture, even though
you see, obviously I'm not including Ben Carson among this group of decadent black subculture.
But I'm saying that the subculture you have a problem with is more like every other subculture, just like it in every race.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not. If that were true, then you would know. If that were true, then the crime rate would be the same.
No, what's crime?
When you control
fucking issue that we're talking
when you control
about.
For it, then it would be the same, right?
No, but it is. When you control for economics, it is.
No, it isn't. That's the thing. It's not.
Hold on a minute, right? All right.
Let's look at this. No. Wait. Who
are the best?
More poor white people in America than there are poor black people.
Who are the best known gangsters in American history? Are they black or are they white?
Wall Street.
Look, wait. I want to say something here. Wait. Rural people, poor do not commit. Rural poor do not commit as many violent crimes. It's also because everybody's going to know who you are if you do.
Vic,
right? If you go into the city and you look at economics, the crime rates are similar.
It's not even,
you can just see it. You can see the attitudinal differences. You can
wait,
see it. You literally have to bury your head in the sand to deny it.
I lived in Oakland, walked through all kinds of dangerous neighborhoods, and the white people in the dangerous neighborhoods are just as much of a danger, just as much cross the street, just as much more, actually, in my experience, more white guys yelling out, threatening things to me than the black guys. Now, the black guys also dangerous, but to me, it was based on the neighborhood, certainly not on the race. When I was in a more people had to have a job to pay the rent neighborhood, then it was different. Not based on race, based on the economics.
Yeah, and that's the point, economics.
There, because we keep trying to come to a certain one specific reason that accounts for all these different syndromes or cultural aspects. Whatever.
I'll go ahead and explain it.
It's different regardless of what.
Well, wait a second. Quintica, you're in the middle of this. You're on Vic's side in a lot of these arguments, in a way.
Who is?
You don't agree with him on this, right? I mean, you see this complexity of how all of this problem is a problem, right? problem 70%, problem 30%, problem 40%, problem 20%, all overlap like waves or something, and there is no isolating it out. But certainly, you must have seen living in Detroit, or else I am wrong about this, that if you go in a dangerous neighborhood, the white kids, the Hispanic kids, every fucking kid in that neighborhood is an equal, like,
fucking
threat.
danger. Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, because of the culture, right? The culture that's there.
Of the neighborhood, right? It's non-racial, though.
I didn't
There is no racial aspect.
If I was raised in a black culture, I would behave the same fucking way.
Oh, hey, Vivian. Welcome,
I
Vivian.
never said that. Oh, because I was.
Wait. Welcome, Vivian. Okay, go ahead.
Welcome, Vivian.
I never said that because I was born with white skin, therefore I'm immune to any sort of cultural pressures. No, I'm saying that if I was raised in a black culture with, well, a decadent street culture, that type of thing, right, which seems to be very...
Decadence about it. It's being poor. Being poor.
It's not just being poor, because there are poor Cuban neighborhoods. There are poor Asian neighborhoods that don't have the same...
Vic, just let me finish it a sec, right? Because I think we're focusing. I think we're focusing too much.
I never thought I'd say that.
Right. The problem is, it's always the poor versus the fucking rich. This is the problem. And yes, it probably is a black community, a Chinese community, whatever fucking community that is creating more violence because they're stuck in a fucking hole called not being educated and not getting a fucking job. The only way to create income in this day and age is to either do it two ways. One is to be a fucking criminal, and the other one is to get a fucking job. And most of the people don't get the opportunity to get a fucking job because they're so fucking dumb. They don't leave school with qualifications.
The same opportunity.
Yeah,
the same.
And it goes for white people as well.
And yet somehow
out of their comfort zones to look for something better, and it is the same reason we might feel uncomfortable in a certain area because of crime rates. They might feel comfortable in that area and uncomfortable in another area where they might do better, and therefore they end up staying in their crappy shithole
because that's all they've got.
Not get anywhere.
Yeah.
Let me just respond to what Enfamy just said in the chat there. It says, why call it black if it isn't only black people? Better call it crime culture. Now, see, this is the PC way.
No, but why? What's
so even though, hold on, let me finish. Even though
it's more accurate.
Even though not this mostly affects black people, right? We're just going to call it crime.
No,
it's the same thing with Islamic extremism.
Wait,
call it extremism? Why do we have to stick Islam in there? No, why don't we just call it extremism? Why don't we call it fundamentalism? Why don't we call it...
Well, look, Vic, I actually agree with you on being specific. I do agree. But on the other hand, the point is, it's like after in the 20s, Prohibition, and we had organized crime. It was brought over. Cosa Nostra. It existed in Italy before it was here, and there was the Jewish mob, and there was all of these. I suggest everybody watch Atlantic, the show about Atlantic City. But anyway,
but you understand, Piero, that there are people.
They unified. But they unified. Wait, let me just finish. I'm just saying they obviously unified and understood each other more than the like conservative and honest Catholic Italians and the conservative and honest Catholic Irish, and all of the same races had other subcultures that would have nothing to do with the formation of the mob. And so it is more important that there's a crime subculture in every Cro-Magnon subspecies.
Yeah. Well,
look.
So got together and carved up like Brooklyn and shit. Like,
so do you?
The fucking Italians hated the blacks, right? But they fucking get together to fucking to work out their turf.
Okay.
So this is
that's a good point.
This is a common narrative. This is a common narrative that I hear from regressives like Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, right? So he'll say, like, it's not an Islamic problem, it's a religious extremism problem. Let's not mention Islam. Let's not impugn Islam. Now, do you agree with that mentality, or do you say, don't be a fucking retard? The problem is really Islam. Because it's fucking can somebody finish a sentence without you interrupting?
Yeah, let him finish. Sizer, you could go next because just let him finish. I heard him, but you know some people can't listen to 5 people at once.
So Pierre, I'll ask the question again. So, do you subscribe to Cenk Uyghur's regressive mindset, where instead of impugning Islam, even though it's obviously that it's the one that exhibits the biggest problem with terrorism than any other religion out there, but of course there are still instances of Christian terrorism, and, you know.
Well, right, like this Oregon guy.
No, so because it seems like the argument is very similar. So do you believe that we should just drop the word Islam and then just focus on religious extremism? And then when somebody says, "Oh, the problem is Islam," so no, it's not Islam. It's religious extremism.
I don't think that's Cenk's position. I've never heard him say that.
Yes, it is. He has said that, and I can give you links to it.
Than me. He's a little bit more conservative than me, but I do agree that we should focus on what the salient factor, what's really happening there, is the religious extremism.
You see, that's the PC
However,
mentality.
of course we mention of course, dude, of course we mention when it's a Muslim extremist. Just like I would like to say that those 4 people that are still holed up there in Oregon, they said yesterday, if it's still Sunday, they said God placed them there, and when they asked what their plan was, because they've been getting calls from congressmen and all kinds of, the Amon's lawyer and all kinds of
FBI.
And when they were asked, and the FBI, I heard them talking to the sheriff who was liaison for the FBI. And they think they're placed there by God, they said, even though they sound like perfectly ordinary people in many ways. They're in such an emotional situation. It's not hard for me to imagine but they do believe that what's their plan? They're waiting for a miracle. They hoped that the Patriot Network would show up, or they hope this or that or the other. They know on one hand, rationally as human beings, they say it's not going to happen. They said, obviously we're not going to get out here without charges, but maybe we can get immunity or amnesty or a million other semi-legal words that vaguely talk about can't we go home.
If that was a bunch of Muslims,
I want to talk about the fact that they're Christian and array nuts. But why? On the other hand, what's more other
Christian
things?
what?
See, they're working class people, my friend. They're working class people facing what they perceive as an oppression, and they're confused about where it comes from. But they're not wrong. They're not wrong that they're being oppressed.
Let me give you a specific example of something that Cenk and the Young Turks do, and you tell me where you stand on this. So, for example, when that whole scandal erupted in Germany, where they started assaulting all those women and pretty much all Muslims, right?
They were a little too apologetic.
And they decided, God damn it,
wait. Let him go, but you know what, Vic, I know what you're talking about. Yes, they were too apologetic.
No. And then they immediately decided to start talking about all the problems with Christians and stuff like that. So it was like a footnote. Like what the Muslims did was like a footnote, and then the major narrative that they were, harping on was the fact that it's not all Muslims. There's a lot of Christians that do the same thing, blah, 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 blah. Now,
here's the thing, Vic. I'm not totally informed. Look, I'm subscribed to them, and I watch them every once in a while. I watch them live. I saw the beginning of Anna talking about that subject, and I thought, you guys are waffling and being too apologetic, and you're not looking at what really is going on.
Thank you.
And so I didn't finish it, and I didn't watch it if they had another 2 or 3 videos on it, because I realized, so I guess I agree a little bit. They
okay,
seemed
good. Then you
that I watched, they were too much like having to make an explanation. I believe that, like you said, hey, I get these people from some ethnicity, they come into town, then there's vandalism. Well, what I think is going on is a mother that's like, holy shit, I have morals, but I can't raise my kid with morals here in Compton, and then she moves out east to some place to try to be a nicer, calmer place, and she brings her kid who's already a troublemaker out there, and you see that trouble, but his little brother is going to be a good guy because she made that decision. And I would like to figure out a way to, well, maybe we need to move few more cops, or maybe
I
you could
just-
train
okay,
that kid.
wait,
Or,
just
you know
a
what I mean?
couple of
It's
more-
a good thing what she's done,
Vic, shut
and
up.
you have a little bit of the culture drag.
A
You know,
witless
Okay,
steering
hold on,
in-
hold on.
May I come in
just
here?
a couple
if
of more
that's
But
follow-up questions,
overall,
and then
she
Vivian
helped
can
her family.
take the
That's the
floor.
best person.
Can I just ask a couple more follow-up questions, and then Vivian can take the floor? I just
Thank
want to just follow up on that, Piro. So you did acknowledge, this is what I want to just get this out there.
Oh,
You did
God.
acknowledge that this was wrong of them. They should have focused on Islam. Now, if somebody came along and said,
No,
Piro,
no,
you're
I
a
didn't say
bigot.
they should
You're a
focus on
bigot.
Islam.
I'm saying in
thought
that particular instance, you
Well,
said
don't
that
say
they were
that.
being too much
It's
of an
not. No, I
apologist.
didn't say what they should focus on, but it was awful obvious they were waffling and putting up smoke and mirrors to not focus on whatever they
Okay,
really
whatever you
thought
want
they
to,
should
however
focus
you
on.
want to
They
describe
were
it.
not being honest in what they thought they should focus on, which what we should focus
Okay.
on is really what that population
Okay,
was, what is
so now-
going on with that
Fine.
phenomenon.
So if somebody
Yeah,
came along and said that
thugs
you're a
going after
bigot,
harassing women, that's a
so
problem.
if somebody came along and said that you're a bigot for talking about the Islamic problems and that sort of thing, your response would be what? I'm not a bigot, right? No, I'm not a bigot. I'm just stating a fact. Look, this is
Yes,
the
I will
problem, and we're
absolutely
seeing it. It's right in
discuss
front of our
those
eyes. Let's
factors.
focus on it, and let's not deflect attention to something that's totally unrelated to the
Right.
issue at
No,
hand.
it is
right?
related.
So,
It's not the
so
idea that
that's
it is
basically all I'm doing here when it comes to my focus on blacks. That's why I focus
Blacks?
more
There
on
you
blacks.
go. That word itself racist, you fucking cunt. Fucking
Come on,
blacks. We're not a
Because
different
they
species, you
represent.
twat. We're not a different species.
they-
If you said that in England, someone would look at you completely strange. This is what you're missing out. When I said the world looks at America and thinks it's very fucking confusing, you're missing the point. Blacks.
Let
Blacks.
me explain.
Okay,
Yes, obviously
Wait,
not
I thought we were
including
gonna let
you,
Vivian
you
go.
fucking
cunt.
idiot.
That's what you
Obviously
Wait,
not
I think,
including.
I'm going to step in because Vivian is
Go
a
ahead,
third
Vivian.
person who does not interrupt enough. I don't know what your
Fucking-
problem is,
Go on,
Vivian.
Viv.
But anyway,
Sorry.
let's go. Yeah, I know. But anyway, I forgive you.
Fuck you,
go
Vic.
ahead.
Shut up and let fucking Vivian speak.
No, come on, yeah. Okay, good. We agree. We agree. I think
Well,
that's,
we
Yeah,
have been
that's
hogging
nice.
the mic,
But
so
the
that's
point,
an agreement.
point I would make, I
my room
wanted to come in
standards.
on your discussion of the working class in particular. I think how I generally look at it is that there is a problem, and with the guys in, I think it's Colorado, you were saying, in the national park. There is this notion of sort of blaming the wrong group, and also I see a lot of sort of very petty passive aggression when I notice a lot of sort of petty passive aggression when I deal with some people from the working class, not all, but some. There's an attitude of sort of saying, of just sort of trying to one up other people or trying to get other people's goat and try to provoke them into a response. And that is sort of a working class thing where I am, and I'm speaking in an Irish context here. But I find that that's unfortunately somewhat of a part of it. Now, one of the advantages of this type of culture is that it produces an interesting sort of subversion on popular culture and can produce things like rap music, for example. That's very different from the mainstream music which came before it. But a problem with it is that it does lead people in the bourgeoisie, in the middle class, and obviously people in the upper class and the aristocracy, to resent and find it difficult to communicate with, if we're being frank, the working class, because the working class don't communicate normally. They do.
It's just you look down upon them as if they can't.
No, I work with people in the working class. I know what I'm talking about. The point
I
is
am the working class. You just literally spoke down to me like I'm beneath you.
Good grief.
Working class. The working class is why
This is the hypersensitivity that I'm talking about.
No, let him say.
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Shut your mouth and let me respond. The working class is how you get rich people. Rich people create businesses because they employ people, right? Before they employed people, they were called slaves.
Yes.
You do understand the fucking history of the universe, or our planet at least, right?
Yes, I do.
God.
Yeah, so
Nobody,
when rich people decided it was a great idea to give us workers' rights, how did we get workers' rights? Was we given them? Were we given workers' rights, or did fucking working people demand them?
They demanded them.
Yeah, so therefore, your entire illusion
with alliance
of workers,
of the bourgeoisie,
class,
look at the French
working
Revolution,
class is
alliance
some
of the
fucking
bourgeoisie.
arbitrary notion of our fucking existence is bullshit. This
But
is
they
why
were
the
so
working class
goddamn
get
rich,
pissed.
them.
No, that's why the working class get pissed at people who think they're better than them.
I'm not
Because
saying
they're
I'm
not. Because if
I'm
we
not
didn't all
saying-
go to work, you wouldn't be fucking rich for much fucking longer. Would you? No, you'd be broke, and we'll go and take your. We will take your fucking shit.
I understand that. I understand that.
You're not even black, but you get the point.
Oh, you said black. Oh my God, you said black.
No,
You said black.
No, let's just
Racist.
keep going. See, this is there is something of a problem with this, insofar as it does make it harder to talk to people within the working class. And I am not going to retract that comment. And you've just reinforced my point.
Exactly.
I'm afraid that that's
That you're a stuck-up cunt.
Because of my accent or something. Is that it?
I'm Scouse.
That's how
Are
it's
you
hard to
fucking
talk
stupid?
to someone right there, because you're
Are you
immediately
fucking
discussing
This is
cunts
the
that
reason that why
the guy
negative
say something.
preconceptions exist, Izor, because of attitudes like yours.
No, it's
that
not.
are
It's
so
the
Wait a
prevalent.
second. Wait. I've been
prevalent.
It's the fact, Vic.
Wait.
Shit is that other people look down on other people. He just said, is it because I'm Irish? He has got no idea.
No, I didn't say it
You're
was because
reading
I was
into
Irish.
what he says.
No, you said
Everything
it was
you
because
have
of
is a
accent.
negative.
Because I get negative responses from Irish people, other Irish people, as regards my accent, because they think I
wait
sound
a
British,
second.
actually.
Ridiculous.
No, wait a second. So, Sizor, I'm curious, because, in America we don't really notice the accents the same way. I mean, we do have the Southern accent, which is associated with, unintelligence, which is bullshit. I worked in scientific places. You have a Southern
I'm
person.
offended right now.
So, right. Well, you should be. I mean, I worked at a scientific place, and the Southern, scientist is talking this Southern accent, and at first it's like, well, that's funny. She's way smarter than me, and look at her explaining it with that accent. Well, that's how it really works. And are you, Stizer, just reacting? Because Vivian has been a pretty reasonable person. I mean, you seem to be reacting because of accent.
I'm not.
You've pegged him. How is that not racism? That you pegged him.
I'm reacting to what he said, not how he said it. I'm Scouse, my friend.
I was only asking.
I can swim to fucking Ireland, literally.
I know.
That's
there.
quite possible,
I can
actually.
swim there. So
But
it's not about no
internationally,
accent,
Scouse is associated with Ringo Starr, so internationally it's become an advantage.
No,
the last
actually,
4 years.
if you're actually English,
your local squabbles with your other little local Brits or whatever they're called. It doesn't matter.
In England, they call the capital of Ireland Liverpool. We've got more fucking Irish people here than any fucking place in fucking Ireland, apparently.
I am aware.
This guy telling me.
But wait, Vivian.
Because I'm Irish.
I believe I'm correct in saying, Vivian, your accent is more posh.
It doesn't matter.
Not the local term.
It's how he said it. What?
No, but it's the
I'm
thing
not allowed
you've
to
got over there in the
categorize anybody.
Britlands.
I'm not allowed to categorize anybody.
We
We're
understand
not
you
allowed
have
to
this thing about accent.
Exactly. You make any sort of generalization, you're a bigot of some sort.
Well, yes, kind of. Even if you accept that there are outliers and what you're saying is not absolutely true, it applies in general, but not in all cases. Even if you say that, you're applying a category. You're trying to consciously comprehend things, and you're not supposed to try to consciously comprehend anybody. And this is the type of obstacle. I see this in the left. I'm involved in left activism where I am. I've come across this problem where even though I go in with the best of intentions, at least I'd like to think so. The point is, maybe I'm naive in that regard, but I come across people. Yeah, okay. But I come across people who say, well, because you're not working class, you ever understand...
So, again, you just said you're not civil.
Yeah. No, I run into that too, and it's a funny thing, because, this is a thing about feminism, is that a lot of feminism in the U.S., especially at least in the U.S., had a more of a wealthy or ruling class, that's when the advocacy took hold. It dominated. That's how we got intersectionalism, was because of black civil rights feminists going, what the fuck is your guys' problem? And so I think that it's a funny thing, because on the one hand, the same thing with the U.S. Revolution, you had the wealthy class get in on, hey, we should all be free. It did help the working class. So, you know, you want every class. You want a full stack kind of movement with every class. George Soros making pot illegal. You need allies in every class, and that's not the real division. And yet, on the other hand, I do think in feminism, one of the reasons it is subject to the attacks that it has is there has been actually even a racist, you know, like Women League of the League of Women Voters in the United States. Great feminist organization. It's done a lot of good. You know, the founder was unequivocally a racist. So that's just, there is a history there for that. And
there's a history about Enid Blyton. She was a great author, but she was a fucking racist. She literally had to change the name of a fucking book.
Well, you know what? I just recently found out Dr.
It used to be called 10 Little Niggers. She had to change it to 10 Little fucking Americans or some shit. 10 Little Indians, I'm sorry.
One of mine is Dr. Seuss was kind of racist and paranoid about the Chinese and the Japanese. Well, the Japanese, I guess. He was pro-internment, made some political cartoons
this
about
issue
it.
really
That
about
was depressing. You know?
Like cultural condition differences, as far as like I mean, we could all argue on behalf, let's say, of Vic's point, if we were asked to debate on behalf of saying, okay, there's a regional group, there's a group here, statistically they're arrested more, we're going to call them inner city black people, but then even the definition in terms of like, oh well, how much of their genetics is really that, and then what of the culture, and then what of the idea of walking amongst differences in culture? Can't we have personal reflexes that reflect our politics? I mean, certainly we can. It's obvious whether, you know, depending on any class of case differences, one can have biases against it. What I'm arguing for is more or less the idea of relaxation and trying to accept maybe more of an atomic view of the individual, as opposed to always being aware and approaching everything from a statistic. Well, statistically, I'm more likely to get hurt in this area than in not. So even the idea of wanting to avoid those areas for strict protectionism of oneself, you know, I mean, I'm not saying you should be a masochist. I'm just saying open yourself up to what actually happens instead of going into a place fronting your bias. I mean, even Vic said, I won't hire a certain guy if he's black and he looks like a gangster. So, like, he's not part of the corporate culture or the type of guy that he would. Anybody that show, you know, there's just a specific sign of personal bias. As and
I never said exactly that. What I would say is that I certainly have a negative preconception of someone who looks and walks and talks like a gangster, right? But once I get to evaluate him, if I find that his work is exemplary and I think that, you know, he's extremely talented at what he does and he fits the job well, then of course I'd hire him. But I'm saying the negative preconception is going to be there, and for good reason, because I notice the pattern. The pattern is actually
isn't a pattern.
It's called pattern recognition. There's nothing unreasonable or irrational about that.
I'll just give you a very good example. Right? I study game theory. I make computer games for a living. You're full of shit. Have a nice day.
That was.
How does that?
Wait a second, Steiner. You keep saying that. Have you actually made money yet, or you just?
Well, it's kind of like.
I've got an indie company, if that's what you're asking. Yes.
No, I want to know how much.
Has it made money? Yes.
Wait. I'm trying to ask if I should apply for a job.
Well, if you want to.
I'm looking for work at the moment.
If you want to work for free,
I worked in games for 10 years. I'm like totally an expert.
I wanted to tell a little anecdote. A little anecdote was, I mean, I live in Salt Lake Valley. I was raised in Salt Lake Valley.
PM me.
But what I was going to say was this: I grew up on the west side of the tracks, the poor side of town, right? And that they actually had to ship me to the rich side of town to go to school because they were trying to equalize the poverty level. So it was kind of the pretty in pink.
Right, and you're white, and they like, for God's sake, send him to a white school.
Was that I made friends with some people, right, from that end, and I took them downtown to what they thought was a seedy area of town. And this one girl, you know, and I had been there, I was raised down there. I wasn't afraid of anything, but just walking down at night by the tracks, this girl that was very rich and very kind of protective, she was just paranoid out of her ass that something was going to happen. I'm like, look, nothing is going to happen, nothing. And we were in a group, like there was a group, and I knew the area like the back of my hand. But nevertheless, she couldn't not be paranoid. She was raised, she was conditioned to evaluate that part of town as a very dangerous place. And it's that conditioning that I think is what is at hand relative to how people perceive, and maybe Vic, I think, is coming from a wealthier capitalistic kind of business approach, and he has that same sort of conditioning. And there's no reason I would ever talk her out of it. But at this age, now meeting her, she's been around the world and all over the place, and in much more dangerous and worse. She doesn't have that kind of idea anymore. So it's interesting that Vic retains it. It's his retention that I think is people are finding an anti-sympathy.
But you seem to think that culture, that the way that little girl was raised, right, to have that fear, you think that's like, you seem to suggest that that's totally unwarranted, that it's totally fictitious, it's imaginary.
I'll give you
in many cases, it's based on reality. Stereotypes don't exist in a bubble. They happen for a reason.
Vic, I will give you a good story. When I was growing up as a kid, right, I met this chick on a bus. Right, because obviously that's where kids apparently meet chicks. I met this chick on a bus, and you know, being young and fall in love and all that shit, we did. And I could never go to her house, and she wouldn't tell me why. And then she told me, she was like, "My dad doesn't like black guys." Like literally, she eventually told me, she was like, "I like you, but my dad's a fucking idiot."
But wait a second,
he's racist. That's racist.
You are not black.
Exactly right. But
dude, you are not black. You are confusing me. What is this black thing?
Trust me, right? When I have to sign a form to get a
job.
Hold on, Pyro.
The point is that to me.
No, I'm just saying your skin is of a white color. You're as pale as me, is all I'm saying. I'm not white. I'm not white. I'm Polynesian.
Okay, he was categorized as black.
Hold on, Pyro. You're making
no, but you are not actually. Your skin color's not actually not white.
No, but this is the point that I'm trying to make, right?
Right.
When we start labeling people this kind of stupid shit, black, white, blah blah blah, we get into this fucking.
I get it, but your girlfriend's father, father can't possibly be thinking you're black.
Well, no, but
based on that,
if I wasn't Caucasian, right?
Then you gotta break
this is Gavin Clark, right? If I'm not Caucasian, I'm a nigger. That's where the word comes from. You have to look up the history of words to understand why they are donated to people, right? Irish people in the United States, when they first went to the United States, they were called white niggers for a reason. This is the point. I don't know if this Irish guy Vivian knows this, but this is the case. Yeah, they were called.
I didn't know they were called that, but I knew they faced discrimination.
No, this is the other thing. Isn't a posh Irish accent actually more rebellious than your working class Liverpool accent?
I don't find.
I think so. He's more. His ruling class is actually oppressed. Whereas your ruling class isn't oppressed. You're oppressed, but yeah, you see what I'm saying.
Well, what I was going to say is I don't find.
Yeah.
And
I'm saying you're racist.
I don't find Vivian's accent any different than any Irish person, right? Because some people can speak nicely, right? And you know, whatever. I think how you word something is different.
Look, I'm trying to find the word. I'm trying to find the wording that will allow this conversation to continue. That's
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you?
I appreciate that about you.
And
it's a tip.
I appreciate where you're coming from, but I want to respond to Stiver. I hope I got Stizor. Sorry.
Yes, that's right.
Relatively, just from a more structured sort of.
I'm loud here.
I think what you're arguing for would be, and I'm getting into the Marxist theory here, but would be Trotsky's theory on revolution, the notion of having a rebellion, or sorry, a revolution from the proletariat exclusively, not with integration of the bourgeoisie or any other sort of group. Now, Lenin and Mao Zedong disagreed with this, and a lot of other, well, there are a lot of other groups that would disagree. I think that there's been a serious failing by some people in the working class, in my opinion, to recognize the role that bohemians, that is to say, disenfranchised middle class people, can play in revolutionary efforts. Middle class people can develop class consciousness as well. They can develop an awareness of the inefficiencies of society and the inequity of it. And we're not soulless.
But that's because they're told
that we necessarily argue only in our own interest. And I think.
Let's look at the
it's all imaginary, right, Sizor?
No,
it's all imaginary.
No. Let's look at a good example. I live in a country with a queen. I like the Queen. I know that's going to sound really strange to most people.
Go ahead.
I like the Queen. Does she serve a purpose for society in a role as monarch? No. Not at all. She's basically fucking useless. But yet we only like her as English people because it represents history. That's it. She's just pomp and ceremony. Most people don't want to get rid of her because we like history. When I go and read history books, I quite like the history, right? But do I think they have a function in society? Fuck no. They are fucking a waste of space. And that's the difference. So people can be enigmatic about things like yourself. You're going the working class, but it's the working class that makes people rich, right? And you can just look at the French Revolution or the fact that we chopped off these fuckers' heads already. The rich need to worry about the plebs. Because when the plebs get pissed off, we start chopping off people's heads. And this is the thing that the society in which we live in today is coming close to again. The very rich in this society that we live in today, Apple, Google, all these fucking big corporations, need to worry about one thing. Don't piss off your slaves, because the slaves will eventually revolt. It's happened all throughout time. We will get pissed and riot.
Why do you resent me using the term working class? And I've heard somebody else once tell me that they were uncomfortable with me using the term proletariat. What is it about using the expression working class that you find offensive or inappropriate?
The word itself isn't offensive, working class. It's how one puts it in context of the message that you're trying to tell that makes it offensive. Like when Vic just said the blacks, that's offensive to most people.
But then you use the term.
You know what I'm referring to, right? I'm not referring to like you, for example. I'm not
he said the blacks.
It's like, at this point, maybe I am including you. I'm not even sure, but I'm
just trying to be honest, Vic. I'm not trying to say you're racist. What I'm saying is, you could word shit better. That's the point. And I probably
okay. Help me how to word this better. Because the thing is, right? Like, look, it's the same. To me, I see it the same thing as the whole Muslim problem, where people they just jump in defense of Islam and Muslim, and they say, no, don't impugn the Muslims, don't talk about Islam. It's a religious extremism problem. Islam is a religion of peace. Blah blah blah. Same thing with the same. When you mention about the glaring problem in the black community, they go, no, it's not all blacks. It's just a certain segment of the population.
We need to define the problem, right?
To me, it's like when the problem becomes noticeable enough.
When I give you a quote from the Department of Justice in the United States, not me, I didn't make this shit up. It's literally from the Department of Justice, where they say that the amount of people arrested for smoking cannabis is disproportionate to the population. that skews the numbers of statistics of crimes in the United
but
States.
we were specifically talking about violent crime. Okay,
I'm trying to make a point that in civil society we can and we do fuck shit up in regards to how we count crimes and all that stuff.
True, right? But do we fuck it up so badly?
Yes, we do. Exactly. Yes, we
do. How do you know that? That's the thing.
Because we're human beings and we're not perfect, sadly.
No, it seems to me like you have a vested interest in it not being a cultural issue within the black community.
I've got a vested interest in the survival of the human race. I don't require a label.
Yeah, it's funny how you don't seem to have much of a problem impugning white culture and all this, but when it comes to black culture, it's all institutionalized racism.
Well, that's just opposite of what I've just said. That's the complete opposite. I told you that the majority of people in the United States who are broke are fucking white. They're not black.
Right.
That's why they're called a minority.
And yet...
But no one gives a shit about poor white guys, right?
The majority of violent crimes are committed by those poor. What?
No, they get reported more.
Oh, that's what accounts for it, really? So
no,
they're
seriously.
Just reported.
I just told you the Department of Justice.
So deaths, so murders are reported more among blacks than whites. Really?
All right, then you tell me this.
Come on.
If them fucking idiots in the United States.
It's one thing to say that petty.
No, listen to me very carefully. If them fucking idiots who were holed up in a federal building, which is empty, which is kind of hilarious, but if they were a bunch of Muslims or black, do you think the scenario would be different at this point? I'm fucking betting your fucking ass it would be. So don't fucking tell me that shit don't matter. Okay, it fucking does. The perception is the fucking problem.
And what fuels that perception? Let's analyze that. No, that's a good point, Sizer. Let's analyze that.
Sucking it right up.
So let's see. 4 years ago, right? About 4 years ago, in 2011, only about 28% of Americans thought that there was that racism was a huge, big problem in the United States. Fast forward 4 years to 2015, and that number has skyrocketed to 49%. Now, what changed in those 4 years? Oh, I'll tell you what changed. Those 3 cases, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, and Eric Garner, 3 cases that was practically proven to have nothing to do with race. They weren't racially motivated, and that's what happened because the media fueled that narrative. Race hustlers, race-mongering people like Obama, Al Sharpton, Eric Holder, they spread this, and the social justice warriors. All social justice warriors on social media, they leap to the conclusion that these cops are racist.
You are the most ignorant fucking person I've ever come across.
Really? How's that?
You're just so... You're like dense like lead.
Okay, explain it to me.
Because you're saying that, because there was 3 cases that went up. That's stupid.
Yes, those 3 cases led to global scandals.
No, let me just inform you about your own history, motherfucker. You were the last country on the fucking planet to get rid of segregation. Do you understand this? And I can tell you when it was. And people are still alive today.
Africa wins that award.
Sorry, Hawk.
Are you seriously going to suggest Stizor?
No, let Hook. No, I apologize because Hook.
Stizor, are you seriously suggesting that those 3 national scandals that were like all over the internet, there were people rioting, that had nothing to do?
It's Hook's plan.
Wait, yeah, because Huck also has this doesn't interrupt enough personality disorder. I've insulted everybody as I've given them space. Huck, you can speak.
Hi there. As a middle class Scottish person, all I was going to say, like when Vic, I think it was bringing up the situation with the blacks in America, I found myself wanting to defend him a little bit, and as much as if there is a statistical anomaly, right, that includes African Americans in it, then you should be allowed to point that out without being shouted down, as long as you're not using the melanin as the reason for that, right?
Exactly.
Can I ask a question?
If I go back to the...
Wait, I would like to interject here because I have an interesting little quirky thing. So first of all, my question kind of is, Scotland is interesting in that I can't tell if there is a Scottish accent that's posh. It seems like a pretty I know there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum, but it's not like from posh to non-posh, which all the other English accents have. And then also, I had a girlfriend for a while that then was very accomplished, had 2 degrees, went and got her master's in psychology in Scotland, African American, ended up marrying a Scottish guy. Very interesting. She taught me about a lot of things like this British word asbo. What are you doing? And whatnot. So anyway, I'm just throwing that in there. But so the question would be about: is there a Scottish posh accent, or
it's called?
I can't tell the difference.
It's called Sean Connery, my good friend. That's what it is. Sean Connery.
No, well, you tend to find.
Amy Pond in the new Doctor Who.
Yeah,
I want to bring it back to these few cases, and I agreed with Vic. Michael Brown and so forth. A number of these cases were proven in court and by independent investigations by the family themselves that they were indeed in the wrong. And so in the case with Michael Brown, he was shot because he went for the cop. I would have put 2 in his chest and 1 in his head as well.
Wow.
He went. If you did that to me, if anyone in this panel, white, brown, or pink, I would have shot them as well if they went for my gun.
What about what about Lavoy Finicum, this Oregon guy, militia guy?
Or the 12-year-old.
So with this militia thing,
got shot. That seemed like suicide by cop to me.
Okay. So I'm not sure the details of what this guy got killed by. However, so you guys can fill me in on that. However, with this whole case in Oregon, with this thing, they're in a building that's it's not close to any other place. Yeah, exactly. It's empty. These people provide no danger to anyone.
Okay, can I'm
still talking.
I don't care. I'm going to tell you the law.
Oh, wonderful. You don't care. Stop. I'm still talking.
I still want to know what happened to tasers and pepper spray.
Hold on. The reason why they haven't been stormed in or anything like that is because they don't have hostages.
No, it's because of white.
Hostages? No, it's because there's no hostages. Hostages are a time-dependent thing. The longer they're in there, the more at danger they are, and the more.
The law in the United States.
Are you shut the fuck up?
Moderate here, please.
Start.
Hey, what's going on? Wait.
Stizor's
what's going on? What is going on? Who's making a point?
Stizor's acting a little.
I'm trying to make the point, and Stiles is interrupting.
Okay. Well, I don't know about that because I wasn't paying attention and I was gone.
Right,
okay, you go, and then Stizer, I guess you could go next.
Yeah, it's when you have hostages, or might have if they had explosives or something like that, it's then becoming a time-dependent thing. However, when they're just making demands and they have no one in danger, they're not at a bank, they're not at a they don't have hostages or anything that's valuable, then it's not a time-dependent thing, and they can literally just wait it out.
Am I allowed to speak now?
By all means. Because they are defined as terrorists, domestic terrorists.
Well, this is the point. It took them 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
The law, I mean, I guess you're not old enough to remember Waco because you sound like you're about 12,
God.
right?
Here we go.
Listen to me very carefully. The law states, and this is a fact, and someone died in this shootout, the law states in the United States, in that state in particular, as a federal crime, if someone dies or takes over the federal building, you get a life sentence. Do you know what happened to the fucking people? They let them go. Thank you very much. They let them go. That's the law, my friend. If they were a bunch of fucking Muslims or a bunch of black dudes...
No, I don't know about that.
I'm just asking in different reference.
No, it's not. It's just this.
I'm asking for a reference. Yeah, you're probably right, but just give me a reference.
No, I don't know of that being the punishment for this crime.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a federal crime.
Wait, here's something all of them did. They are charging them with prohibiting a federal employee from doing their job. But there's another law too, which is this damage to federal property, and they used federal gas and machines and took down fences and stuff. And if you do damage under $100, you're up for
10 years.
100,000. No, I think 100,000 and 2, or maybe it was 5 years. If it's over $100, which surely that could easily be accounted to the people that were up there probably, especially since the way it's left. I mean, the place is a mess, right? They did make a mess of it because they ran away without cleaning it up, you know, for one. But anyway, and in that case, it's $250,000 and then 10 years in jail, like Sizer said. So, I mean, at least that crime seems to have been committed.
Even worse, they had a shootout with the cops, and one of them died. Literally, one of them died in a shootout with the cops.
No, they did not shoot at the cops.
It's literally on
evidence.
Post. You can go.
No, there's no evidence that they shot, though, as far as I know.
One of them's dead, dude. One of them's dead.
He got shot, but that the cops say they shot 6 bullets. The witnesses said there were, you know, there were hundreds of bullets, but I'm like, why are none of the people in that car dead? They also shot beanbags and stuff through the windows and a few bullets. So
one of them's dead, and if you.
But they didn't shoot. No, wait. We can't lie about these so-called
I'm not
Patriots.
lying, dude. It's already been reported.
No, but the Patriots have not shot anybody yet. They had all these guns, and the fact that they didn't shoot anybody is to their credit.
One of them rushed at the cops, and the cops shot one of the guys. Okay, one of them. And we already know this because the testimony.
We've seen the video. We've seen the video as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm showing the video.
If it went for the cop, it's justified.
No, but I'm not saying it's not justified. But according to the law, if someone dies, then they're responsible for that guy's death, and that's why they get the life sentence. That's a fact.
Well, but I want to frame this. I want to frame this a little bit.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's not true. Nobody is responsible for his death except for himself and his punishment that he's
That's why
dead.
bank robbers go to jail.
The thing is I want to argue on behalf of who was. I was in the other room.
They don't go to jail for death in their fellow bank robbers. Go ahead, Mike.
Is that
they are causing a different type of
no, that might be the way it should be. That's not how it is in the U.S.
Freedom of assembly.
Let Mike go.
Well,
Mike.
what I want to say is to me, yeah, if it was a black group or a Muslim group or something like that, they would have been taken out a lot faster, even if they performed the same way. I want to make that clear first.
No.
Secondly, I want to say this. Secondly, I want to say this. These guys were arguing. These guys were. They had the right to assemble. They have a right to carry arms, and they have a right to their speech. They did not block traffic in and out. The people were intimidated, so they did not go in. If you drive any I-15 or any interstate highway in the states, and you take a piss at a local piss stop, right? That's owned by the feds, right? They could call that a federal building, that little piss building, right? It's not officially a federal building, but it's owned by the federal government. Therefore, if you guns at a piss stop and you make a mess, and you're making
refuge. No, Mike. 16 federal workers work every day of the business week at this refuge. It is an actual federal facility.
Building? Yeah, and they are
moving in or out. That's the point I'm making. Moving in or out. They allowed people to go through. They just didn't go through. They didn't stop them from going through.
But I mean, it's not like the National Refuge Park where, you know, every once in a while somebody wanders through. I mean, this is an actual facility, no different than
but they
the
were just
Pentagon.
intimidated by the guns. They weren't said they couldn't go to work. They just didn't go to work. They could have gone to work. It was the same thing as Occupy Wall Street.
My friend, that is
Occupy Wall Street. Like, the only difference is they weren't armed, right? If Occupy Wall Street was armed, that would be a huge different story. But they shut it down across America in a heartbeat. The feds did. This just shows the power of the feds. No matter what the narrative is, boom. When they want to take it out, boom, they can take it out. It doesn't matter.
But the motivation is monetary. In the case, it was monetary in the case of Occupy Wall Street.
Well, I guarantee you, if it was a bunch of Muslim terrorists had done it, they wouldn't wait a month.
It's time dependent. If they had hostages, if these white guys had hostages, yes, they would have gone in much quicker. Everything would be much more. It would be, of course, be well thought out and decision of how they deal with it. But it's no, because you don't understand police protocols.
They didn't have any hostages.
Exactly. So they can literally wait it out. You cannot wait it out.
You just stormed the place and killed them all. Waco was a prime example of when the government is like, nah, fuck off. But if that was a bunch, I mean, I'll give you a good example, right? I'll give you a good example, and Vivian should know this because he's Irish, right? When the IRA were blowing up the United Kingdom, right? Yeah, whatever. When the Irish Republican fucking weird army thing, the IRA, were blowing up England, we didn't go, oh, it's the fucking Irish. Or it's all the Catholics. It was a bunch of nutcases. Yes.
Actually, you did. You said the SAS, if I recall correctly.
Wait. Some people did over there in the middle of it, but the rest of the world did not do
give a shit.
The United States did not say.
The United States supported.
The United States supported intelligence gathering efforts actually on the IRA as well. So it's not. Look, which is not, it's not the same as responding violently necessarily.
I'll tell you one thing they did do is though they infiltrated certain Catholic churches just like they want to do to mosques.
Well, I'll tell you what the British did to the IRA. The IRA were going to blow up an unmanned police station in Northern Ireland, and in order to shoot the people that were blowing it up, because we're using a digger and what do you call it? No compost. It was a chemical type bomb they were using. They were putting it on a digger and they were driving it into a police station. They manned it so they could shoot the people doing it, knowing that it was going to happen. They put a soldier inside the unmanned building so that they could shoot the perpetrators.
Yeah. They will do that, absolutely. Just
same way at Gibraltar.
They'll do all of the above.
Well,
but it doesn't mean that the people occupying a nationally held property are right. But absolutely, the FBI will definitely put snipers in the woods who their job is to look for the opportunity for the sniper kill. They'll do all of the above. It doesn't, but the question really, well, I mean, here's the thing. I actually believe that the way we've reacted to them, while hypocritical, was appropriate, and that's the way you should react.
Well, I don't like anybody being killed.
Any ethnicity or any movement, you should have an excess of really. Well, how about we start by not taking you that seriously, but we'll send some FBI up that way.
Well, they did. It took them 3 weeks. That's what they did. It was like, no.
Well, they ought to do that in general. I think it's a very effective thing.
It depends. It does depend on what the goal is and what their intentions are. If they're, for example, like these guys who just wanted to make a statement and hold an empty building that's far away from anything that's important or significant,
and it was on a fucking
yes, then they can let negotiations carry a lot longer because they've got the place surrounded and isolated, so they can let those negotiations take a lot longer. If it's but if these guys had the intentions of blowing the building up, if they had hostages, or if it was a different group for doing a different reason at a different area, then it's time dependent. And then
wait. Here's an example. Wait, I want to talk about this. So I know a lot about Ruby Ridge. I heard about it before it got famous, and then Waco was on TV. Those were two crazy ass bunches of people. Those two. And it would have been a lot better, actually, if they had arrested them and they all went to jail and somebody made a documentary about them. That would have been much better for everybody. Them, our culture, everything else. Because they were fucking crazy. So, look, there were 50 people or something that have come and gone from there at least. One guy who said he wanted suicide by cop got killed. So far it's been pretty well handled. And if they get these last 4 people out without, I think they should just shoot them from 100 yards away with tranquilizer darts like you would a tiger, and then wait.
Is that pay-per-view? Pay-per-view?
That would be good, but I mean, awesome. Just wait 10 minutes and bring them out, and and they wake up in a jail cell. Why not? I mean, they need to get them all out alive, both so they face justice, and also because I've been watching these guys' live feeds, and they're just geeky, dorky. Where am I in my life?
Not smart.
You know what I mean? They're just ordinary people, though. They're in a weird place in their life. They ended up there, and frankly, they don't deserve to die for that. They, basically, these guys were peaceful. They're the kind of gun nuts that brought their guns, but they really didn't plan to shoot anybody.
Well, no one give a fuck
they
about.
They actually didn't plan to. Well, but I do. I'm a bleeding heart liberal, so I care about them. They're working class, they're working class rural Americans.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is,
I give a shit about them.
No, but what I'm saying is, what Monsanto said is, they weren't doing anything really that dangerous. They took over the when I first heard this story, I think it was on like Brother John's hangout. He was like, "Oh my God, a bunch of wingnuts have took over a building, a federal building." I read the article. It's empty on a nature reserve.
Yeah.
Like, that's not even news. That's stupid.
Dude, that's not true. This is a nature reserve, which is an important one, a valuable one. It's considered a valuable one. And there's 16. Excuse me, there's 16 people. Well over $1 million a year paid for people to staff it and do the other jobs you do when you have a job like that. So I mean, that is significant.
Yeah, but
there's people
as much as
that work there that can't work there.
As much as I disagree with them, they shouldn't have got shot. I don't know.
Haven't you seen? I mean, there's backhoes and all kinds of equipment these rednecks are using. Boy toys. A big old backhoe, a Caterpillar backhoe. That's what we're all just fucking on the edge wanting to play with one of them, and they go in and did it.
So the place is significant. However, again, like Sizer said, there was no people there. But the reason why the bloke got shot is because he had a weapon on him. Did he not?
No, he didn't. He
did. Yes, he did.
Well, I don't know, right, but apparently, from eyewitness testimony, he ran at the cops, and that's never a good idea in the United States. I'm just saying. Yeah. Even standing in the streets in the United States will get you shot.
You can see on my thing, he was running around away from the truck. If you don't want to be killed in a situation like that, you put your arms right up on the car.
I'd be laying down on the floor.
He's obviously pointing.
Anything. Just don't move. Everybody knows that.
Exactly.
Wait, the reason that he knows, don't move.
Yeah, the reason is. Yes, the reason why you don't move is it should be obvious. Not just because, you're going to get shot. It's because, the cop, he's under the assumption that you've got a firearm, especially in a case like this.
Yeah,
if you make a move, it's got, and anywhere. If I'm a cop and I've got someone at gunpoint and he makes a sudden move after I've told him not to, it's going to look bad to him.
Yeah, but you're a bit.
And the thing is, even if you have a weapon, if you have a weapon in your hand, if you stay still, the cop is going to feel like it's not pointed at me, or it is. He's going to be able to handle that. You could actually even have a gun in your hand, and if you fall flat in the snow and don't move, they're going to give you at least a 50% better not shoot you opportunity.
It's because
everybody knows this. He knows it.
It's for everyone's safety that you do exactly as you're told. You don't even assume.
No, I
agree. You don't even assume.
Yeah, so this is definitely suicide by cop. Whether he was confused and wasn't sure whether he wanted to do it, he ended up suiciding by cop. They would have taken him alive. They would have taken the whole car alive. Otherwise, if they weren't willing to take the whole car alive, all of them would have been shot. There'd be no film. And, because the government does do shit like that, I admit. And there would be no film. They'd all be dead. We'd be told they pulled out their guns.
Jeopardy issue. What did you think about the fact that they let him out? They were charged. The whole reason behind the protest is that they jailed a guy for 2 or 3 years. 2 of them, they got out, and then the feds came in and said, no, you have to not retry them, but incarcerate them because of something, right? So they're being thrown back in.
I agree, that's bullshit.
You know, that's the whole.
That is bullshit. I agree. I think it is ridiculous. And the thing is, the 5-year mandatory was only because of these bullshit Patriot Act era terrorism laws, because they burned federal land, and under a terrorism law, clause. And so that is bullshit. I totally agree. But look at what the Hammonds are doing. But the other thing, though, is the Hammonds have caused a lot of trouble, right? So it's not just this law. But look at the Hammonds. They are acting like whatever, nobly or appropriately. They went back to jail. They're like, well, this is the way it turns out. It's not fair, but we do it.
Well, the people who they were supposedly supporting came out and said, we don't want anything to do with them. Like, literally, they was like, well, we don't know what the fuck they're up to, but whatever, I guess. They were like, they've got nothing to do with us. But, I mean, I don't agree with I think, like, in the UK, right, and this is just an example that I'm going to give. In the UK, when them terrorist dudes, them two black guys, were trying to chopped off that poor kid, or chopped them up, the guy who was in the army. It took 7 bullets to take them both down. I've seen, literally on video, a guy with a knife get unloaded on with about 20 bullets, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if I was a cop, the first thing I'm shooting is your legs, because I want you to serve justice.
No.
Shot in the leg.
That's a misconception. It's very hard to hold on. It's very hard to hit limbs when they're moving.
It's not.
It actually is. That's why it's not taught for any place. No.
Well, listen, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm fucking sorry. Evidence.
You guys.
Evidence.
It is difficult. It is difficult, but in the old days, that was part of the idea. You were
even if you shoot, you can hit an artery.
Oh, look, you little Aussie cunt. Listen what I'm saying.
I've done security training.
We have trained marksmen.
Oh my god.
Trained marksmen.
This is the kind of thing
if you're actually good at shooting a gun, then you should probably have one. If you're just gonna shoot at
oh my god, you watch too many movies.
No, I
don't.
I know
You've never held a firearm then.
I'll show you. I know the British police system. I'm sorry, but you're full of shit.
British police don't carry firearms.
You watch too many fucking movies.
Vivian, you're not loud enough. You need to shout more.
The guy
knows that loud is correct. Are you dumb?
Okay.
I know this is slightly off topic, but
I think we should start a new topic. Hey, Huck, why don't you speak?
This is slightly off topic.
It's a new topic. Okay, great. That's what we need.
No, it's not really a topic, but it's slightly off topic. But I came to work yesterday, and the bomb disposal was in the car park, the work, and I wasn't allowed to go to work because they were trying to blow something up in the field.
I'm going to give you mine.
That was quite fun.
Trying to blow up your work business place thing?
No. There was I don't know what they found, but they found it in a field, and they were camped out in the car park of my work, so they could be at a safe distance in order to have a controlled explosion.
Did anyone see that YouTube video of that guy getting he blew himself up? That was kind of funny. He was recording like a training video of a suicide bomber teaching people how to blow themselves up, and he literally blew himself up. It's highly hilarious. That is the best ever. A suicide bomber teaching other people to blow themselves up. That's nice. And he killed all his buddies. I was like, woohoo!
Need more instructors like that.
Yeah.
What was the video where the guy was running, or he's
nobody can accuse him of being the kind of teacher that can't do what he's.
That's funny.
I just want to say that we did have a circumstance like this to do with Irish people that came up earlier. It was called the 1916 Rising, in case if you've never heard of it, which you probably haven't.
I have, because I'm actually English. But whatever.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm saying. You're a very stuck-up little person, aren't you?
See, this is hostility. That makes it harder to relate to people who are from the working class, because everybody has
because you don't read books. Yeah, I know.
No, not because you don't read books. I don't assume you don't read books. I don't assume that. You probably read faster than I do. I'm not the fastest reader, to be
I know he read at least book.
No, it's uncanny.
It's
like
the
no one's
book.
read it. It's like blind.
It's like George Orwell's 1984 reference to the book.
The cat.
At least the IRA are localized. They're not like the Islamic groups. They're not, trying to take over multiple, sections of nations and shit. So at least there's a difference.
Well, no, they are. They're trying to change it, and it's based on religion. That's why Ireland.
Yeah, but they're not. Yeah, but they're not They're nothing compared to what the many Islamic.
I don't know. Ask the IRA blowing us up if it's the same thing. Pretty fucking sure it is. If you blow people up based on religion convictions, yeah, it's
no, it's
not the same thing.
No, it's far numerous.
Self-determination is not the same as religious war. That's total bollocks, Stizer.
If you say
so. There was this thing in 1816 or 1916?
1916.
Go on, anyway, sorry.
That I know nothing about because I'm not British.
Well, I do, but he assumes that because I'm working class, I can't read.
I'm gonna get educated.
No, I didn't listen up because you were working.
Well, it's a bit disingenuous to think.
Stizer.
We can't talk about it now.
You asked me for
He's got like a
don't bother.
It's fine.
Don't bother. It's old country history. Yeah. We don't. Whatever.
I'm too high for
I was interested in
country history.
Sorry. But yeah, I was slightly trolling. My bad. Go on, Viv. I apologize.
Okay. What were we on about? Did they not have hostages during Waco? Was that
no.
No, except for the children. Well, the children. It was a whole community of people.
They were.
Well,
they sort of blurred the lines on that, but yeah, I understand.
They're dead.
There were no actual hostages. It was a community of people.
Yeah, who told the government to go fuck themselves, and then the government were like, "No, we'll show you how to go fuck yourself," and then botched the. They tried to rescue them apparently, and then killed them all, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but fired flames into the building.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they set fire to the place. I think that got proved.
On a technicality,
rescue flames.
I would vote small children hostage.
Well, actually,
they didn't have a right. They didn't have a voice in what was happening.
Yeah, that's different. But actually, it was proven that was the federal government or the FBI. When they pumped them full of grenades and shit, that set fire to the building. It actually wasn't them inside the building who set fire. It was actually the fucking people who were trying to rescue the people. Set fire to the building.
There were some tanks that might have been, blowing flames, fire throwing.
It might or might not have been dropped.
What do you mean? Okay, I'm not saying I know.
Please don't use tanks.
And I'm not.
Please don't use tanks.
I'm not susceptible to just the suggestion of a conspiracy. No, I think that they did put in tanks in there, incendiary tanks that burned that place down.
Yes.
They don't have such tanks.
Yeah, there's video evidence. It's some video like.
On the other hand, David Koresh was a fucking nutcase cult leader. He was having sex with all the kids in there, or many of them, and it was not okay. So it's not like if you were in the position of attacking him, you might not use a flame-throwing tank. It's still.
Don't use tanks.
Well, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying I would do that. I'm definitely more peaceful organization, hopefully.
Well, the FBI
not entirely obvious.
Sure, David Koresh didn't have flames.
You couldn't just let him get away with having his own little mini country on his property.
For all that child rape.
No, but the FBI released a report because they know that they did set fire to the building. It was one of the worst operations ever. Like it was.
Yeah, there were a lot of things problem. Well,
yeah,
certainly
the Bradley tank firing into the building is in the video.
Problematic.
Yeah. I mean, the FBI.
Well, I remember when they were playing the audio of rabbits getting butchered. And they were blasting this stuff into them and all kinds of weird music and stuff. It was obvious that the FBI was under the charge of some really demented person with ideas, magical ideas. That's not the way to run a siege.
Very strong psychological torture going on.
Waco.
No, and it was ridiculous. They should have just done a regular old siege. It's like, what do? Well, let's surround them and make sure nothing goes in and out, and then you wait them out. Playing that music and stuff like that, trying to freak out your enemy is just the thing that makes them pick up a gun instead of surrender.
They should have just left them alone. They should have just left them alone.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what they say about
the same thing with Ruby Ridge, which was much less known, but Ruby Ridge,
that was equally as crazy.
They also fucked up, but they didn't fuck up that those people were crazy ass and needed to be taken care of. They did. The Ruby Ridge people, on the other hand, the way they went in and killing dogs and shooting the pregnant woman and all this bullshit, they obviously did not handle it well. On the other hand, they were not wrong, in my view, that it needed to be handled. These were problems. That Waco compound should not be allowed to keep like building up arms.
Well, who they're gonna fight? Who they're gonna fight?
Right in town limits, more or less, of Waco. That was not okay. They had to do something. They just fucked up what they did.
Yeah.
Agree.
That's why a lot of Americans don't trust the government, because if you look at some of the shit that the United States get up to government-wise, it's pretty scary, man.
Yeah, sometimes very incompetent.
Well, I don't know, shitting your own president's pretty scary. Twice.
So what was scary?
Actually, 3 times. Reagan was also shot. Though
yeah, but he
didn't die, unfortunately. But you know.
Well, I find Katrina.
I like the way you slipped that in there, Vivian. Very nice.
I think Katrina is an example in the U.S. Where it's hard to fuck up that much. Like, it's easy to fuck up less than our federal government fucked up in Katrina, especially the executive branch. I mean, it's hard to fuck up quite that bad.
I worked in Katrina personally, and they fucked it up.
The TV stations were at the Super Bowl, the designated, or no, whatever it was, the stadium.
The dome,
the TV stations were there before FEMA by like 2 or 3 days. What the fuck? That's so incompetent.
I
just understand.
With a church.
Are you implying conspiracy with FEMA camps?
No, it's not conspiracy. This is the thing with the
no, with the FEMA thing. Do you know what FEMA is and what they're doing?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to talk about FEMA death camps and that ton of.
Oh no, that's like for Alex Jones. Shit.
Not entirely, because the fact is FEMA has had these internment camps built on the idea that when chaos hits, there'll be a lot of people they need to throw in jail. And that is kind of their focus. And it's just like Homeland Security. Homeland Security is not the kind of thing in any country, Nazi Germany or any other, that's really about protecting the homeland. Wait, it's about being suspicious of native people as rebels and controlling them.
FEMA responds to any kind of emergency threat, be it chemical, biological, or so forth. And they help prepare they need to do training amongst the civilian population, because that's where they're going to be called to do their work amongst civilians in the cities. They need, it's just SWAT does it. You call it SWAT over there in America. SWAT, police, they do this kind of training out amongst the population, because that's where they're going to be called to do their work. So they need to have it as realistic as possible, until they'll do that. You can't scream conspiracy or whatever you're trying to get across.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because wait a second, it's funny you should say that.
It's not the first time that the U.S. has had internment camps in our history.
It's funny you should say that, though, because isn't there a problem of our paranoia is such that we want such a big SWAT force and these kinds of special ops things that we don't actually have enough actual problems for them to all get experience.
Well,
the actual experiences are so rare that they have to, they do their training in
yes, they are. Yes, hold on. Since 2001, 2000, there has been a definite increase in active shooters. So what do you want? You want people who can respond to this in a very precise way. So sure, is it rare to say that, or whatever have you, where hostages are taken, you've got armed robbery and so forth. Is it rare? Somewhat to the overall population, yes. But yeah, the reason why you guys develop SWAT teams, when nations all over the world have developed specialized units, is to respond to when you have active shooters, to when you have hostage situations, for this, that, and the other. The reason why you don't use special forces is because they are a higher tier, and one is because they deal with national interests locally or internationally. They don't deal with police matters.
But I mean, in
So
the
that's
US,
where you have, hold on, that's where you have specialized police to do with hostage rescue.
But in the
and all that kind of
U.S.,
stuff.
we've had SWAT teams deployed to domestic violence situations and stuff.
No,
Ridiculous
yes,
situations.
yes. Do you know what? Do you know
Because there isn't enough work. Wait,
Sorry, do you know, hold on. No.
Let me just finish my claim, which is that because there isn't enough actual work for a SWAT team, and so they end up getting deployed
They will
to things that are inappropriate.
a squad. They will accompany an ordinary squad because if they have reasons.
There is difference in the USA compared to like the.
No, there's been old guys
I know what it's getting across.
shot.
I know what you're getting across, and I agree.
Yeah.
But the reason is because we know in America, especially in America, how they have a lot of different types of guns and so forth. So the reason why you have, say, when they're doing a drug bust, is why you have a SWAT team there is because if shit hits the fan, those cops are going to be outgunned and outmatched. So you need to have.
They sell
They will
bullets.
accompany them. They accompany them.
You're right, but let me tell you, Americans don't realize that the fact that we have free guns so often justifies having SWAT teams there.
Yes, it does. Because if
I know it
these
does.
cops,
I agree with you, but I mean they don't see that having a lot of guns allows the cops to be all military at the same time.
But the reason why they get this gear is specifically to deal with those kinds of situations. So it's not that they're getting military gear. It's these companies making the gear specifically for them, and it also works well with the military. It's not saying they're getting military-grade gear. They're getting police-made gear. That's also what
they're getting military surplus gear as well.
With modified trucks and so forth, yeah. But I mean, like in terms of the helmets, gas masks, that's what they need, because if they're going to breach a room, or if they have to deal with that kind of thing, well then yes, they need the gear. So that's why these cops, the SWAT teams, most often accompany the DEA and so forth, is because if shit hits the fan, they need an armed response to be there
like
on
I
the
said,
spot.
You can buy bullets in America that can go through fucking police armor. That's fucking kind of scary when you think about it.
I mean that'll be military grade from the black market because they can't get that on the civilian market. But yeah, definitely. So that's why that's also why they have those surplus military trucks given to them, is because then if shit really hits the fan and say a cunt's got a fucking Barrett M107A1 and he's got a fucking 50 cal going off, well then they can just hunk behind or inside the truck and they're safe. That's why they have those kinds of gear, because you can buy those kinds of stuff in America, and if they go to the black market, and if you're busting a gang syndicate, well then shit, it's a good chance they're going to have some serious firepower. So people shouldn't argue against police having these modified trucks, so they don't have turrets and shit on them. They might have a water gun or something, but that's why police in America and all over the world have up armored trucks. So if they come across heavy fire, well, they can get behind it or in it, and also they're good.
Can I just
except when you have gun control laws where you limit the amount of weapons you're probably going to.
But a black market again.
Then you don't need Humvees.
Hold on, no. Even Obama's recent thing, which I agree with, even though I support the gun rights and shit, I agree with Obama's thing where he's put in like a few extra $1 million into tracking and reporting lost in transit weapons or stolen in transit weapons, and then to the black market, because even if you make it really strict or all out bad, well, you still have a fucking black market to worry about, and the black market weapons and unregistered weapons are what they use most of the time, even everyday crime. About 47% of the time, the paper for you, doing that now, but you get the point. So it's even if you heavily restrict or ban guns all out, well then you still got the fact of the black market, and that's still going to be an ongoing problem. So I agree with what Obama's done.
Wait a second. There is no black market weapon company. The black market is the spillover. We sell so many guns to, you know, to this or that, Colombia, this or that. People, corruption, they resell it. Excuse me, American and I believe French arms manufacturers know, and Russians, there is a spillover. It's just like the pharmaceuticals. They know that there's,
oh my God.
they know there's $30 billion worth of Vicodin that spills over into
don't get me wrong about medicine, because I'll demolish anyone here on medicine because I do buy medicine.
No, they know these companies that make these, they know how much they sell it. You can't deny. Wait, let me put it this way. Do you think they don't know how much they sell a year in spillover?
These companies don't make weapons to be put into black market. The black market is this thing where I can be the black market by knowing contacts, and if I had weapons myself, I can start selling by stripping out the registration and so forth.
How do you think they get into the black market? I'm just curious.
It's a spillover, but these companies don't supply to the black market. That is folly. It's an unsupported...
No, they don't have to directly supply to the black market.
No, they supply to local bullshit governments with tons of corruption. And then those people in those governments resell
gun manufacturers. They get contracts, you fool. They get contracts by completing competition, by meeting a set amount of requirements. And so Beretta, for example, they will sign up to a contract. They'll enter a competition to get the contracts to say provide some sort of pistol.
And I'm not arguing from intention. I'm arguing about the consequence of this. That there is a consequence to having such an active military-industrial complex such as this. This is one of the consequences of it. It is.
No,
regardless of what the intention is, regardless of what's stipulated in the contract of sale or the contract.
They sell. So okay, I got to point out. So say Beretta, they sell to the military, they sell to civilian, and they sell to local law enforcement. They also do these three branches, as it were, to other nations. So mostly the civilian, when they get sold into the civilian population, if I'm a criminal, I'm now going to buy my shit if I can get to it, or steal it, and I'm going to strip away the registration numbers and all that kind of stuff, and then put them in circulation. I bought them legally as a civilian, but I'm buying them to strip them and then put them into circulation in the black market. So it's sure these companies are making them. Sure, I mean, fuck.
Do you think they know? Do you think they have any idea how many of their weapons fall into?
They can see it. They can see it, but I mean, they can't do anything about it because they're selling to law enforcement.
They could do something about it. Is they could not protect their. They could not try to protect their right to sell their guns to whomever they want when they know some
they abide by local laws, so they're selling to law enforcement.
No, they also spend money lobbying to keep the laws liberal towards their business.
Yeah, because they get money from it. They're trying to sell a product. Right. I mean,
it's just like the billions of dollars of Vicodin that slip into the illicit market. You can't think that these smart people at the pharmaceuticals don't know that they're making billions of dollars.
That's what they're trying to act.
Beyond subscribe.
No, they're trying to push. They're trying to push to stop misuse of pharmaceutical stuff. They're trying to push against
pharmaceutical companies. You think?
What?
So, for example, you can buy Vicodin over the counter in Thailand and Mexico. You think the pharmaceuticals are trying? No, and then those get re-imported into the U.S.
More regulated.
Those get re-imported into the U.S. and we have people dying from opiate overdose. Do you think the pharmaceutical companies are trying to have Mexico?
Hold on, the companies are selling it legally, but people are misusing it. These pharmaceutical, they still have a purpose to people who need extra treatment.
But you understand, it's over the counter. Wait, in Mexico, it's over the counter, right? Anybody can buy it, right?
So Mexico needs to fix their regulations on that, like America has.
Well, do you think the pharmaceutical companies are trying to help Mexico fix their law for health and human health?
A pharmaceutical company doesn't fucking do law. That's up to the the fucking
That's not true.
government.
They spend a lot of money on lobbying for law. That's a fact.
They don't have any headquarters or something in, say, for example, Mexico. They can't influence the law there. That's up to the government to do so.
You're not right. That's not true. They do lobby in every nation.
They formed the ideology which then crystallizes into law. If we want to talk about the sort of metaphysics of that, or at least I'd like to. But what I also want to do is just remark that we made a mistake when talking about the number of US presidents who had been shot. It was actually, I think, 4. So there was, I think we said 3. So it was Lincoln, McKinley, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and then Ronald Reagan. We made a mistake there and concluded there were only 2 first and then 3. I think we might have forgotten McKinley, or I forgot.
Yeah, nobody thinks about McKinley.
Yeah, McKinley sucks.
Whatever. I'm related to McKinley, you bastards.
Oh, sorry. McKinley is awesome. He's like the most underrated person ever. I think he should totally get another 4 more years of life or something.
It was via marriage, so it's okay.
What?
I'm only related to him through marriage. My actual bloodline doesn't intersect. But what an amazing guy. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up.
Okay, you guys. By the way, just so you know, I mean, the end is in 18 minutes. No, wait. 16 minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up around 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And thank you all for coming, which means everybody has a chance for some significant closing comments. That's 15 minutes from now, more or less.
Well, that was pretty interesting, huh?
Quintica has given his closing comments as a drum solo. Okay, who's next?
Oh, gotcha.
I would just like to thank everybody that is voting for me in the U.S. presidential elections, and I appreciate the conversation about politics and so forth, and people's opinions, and blah, 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 blah.
Well, Mike, I think I might be softening since I decided not to work on the campaign. I've been thinking I might. I'm a 50-50 voting for you instead of Bernie.
I'm curious, what is the motivation of running for president, like, when you know you're not going to win? Like, I'm just curious. I'm sure there's something in it for you, but...
It's so I don't... Because there would be a conflict of interest for me to vote for anybody. And it's the way out of voting for anyone other than myself. So I ran for that. No. I mean...
Wait, Mike. That's a great answer. But okay, go on to your next answer. But that I thought that was a great answer.
It's a good start for a potential policy position in the future, and it creates waves, and it's part of my registered history now. So
yeah, it's like a radio station, Vic. You broadcast your message, and sometimes, obviously, it gets picked up widely, and always it gets picked up, somewhat like any radio station, local or wide range. You know what I mean? So
but I think usually it's a little more effective if you like.
If you're asking seriously what their motivation is, I've known a lot of people to do it, and that's usually it.
You can run for like House of Representatives. To be a legislator. You can be governor. You can start small and then kind of like build your way up to the presidency.
By being practical, then you're trying to get into politics. By going for the presidency, you're saying, I have a message. I believe I'm worth the presidency. I'm ready to do it if by some black horse law of politics I won, and here is the message. Whereas if you try to run for, your dog catcher,
you need a track record of leadership. You need to have.
Because it's the difference between trying to be a CEO by saying, "Look, I've been growing my chops as a manager," versus just putting out a book about how to run businesses.
And really, the promise that anyone can grow up to be president, in the United States, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take advantage of that, even if I don't have a history of anything that anyone thinks makes me qualified for it.
That's another good reason.
Because I have a right to do it. That's why I do it.
Is it fun, or is it like a lot of work?
Vic, what about a Ross Perot? He wasn't going to win, we all knew, but he was pretty close.
Well,
sometimes, what about Teddy Roosevelt?
You're wealthy enough. I mean, look at Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump.
That was but he's got a shit ton of cash.
So everybody has the right then to realize that, well, you never know how wide the "I could win anyway" fluke in politics goes. That's a democracy, and we need to encourage that kind of activity, and in fact admit that sometimes those people do win, even though in America it's pretty rare. We do have one or two weird elections that sort of fit. I mean, even Carter winning was pretty weird. If you really follow what was going on at the time, it was totally, because
Are those your closing remarks, Hero? Are those your closing remarks? I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Go back.
They should be. I'm sorry. I meant to let you guys talk. Go ahead.
I just wanted the rest of the guys to say what they wanted to say.
I'll give
you're right. You're right, and I'm wrong. I will totally be quiet.
As usual, is I'm not a racist, even though we probably should have discussed that for a bit, since this was the title of this hangout, is like defining terms. So it would have been interesting to hear different people's definition of the word racist, because that word gets tossed around so casually and liberally. It's almost been perverted to the point of uselessness. It's like,
okay, granted, yeah, that is one.
So if you're not a regressive social justice warrior, you're automatically a bigot and a racist. And
yeah.
I'm just upset at the term regressive. Okay, somebody.
You tried to get us to talk about that, so granted,
so,
we should definitely cover that.
One thing that I think we should all do more of, and I usually say this pretty much in every single one of these hangouts, is that we really need to stop with this us versus them mentality. For instance, I speak very passionately against social justice warriors and radical feminism and stuff, but I'm subscribed to Rebecca Watson, right? I find like 95% of her content to be really good and informative, right? She's funny, she's witty, she's puts out good content. I mean, there are a couple of videos that she puts out that, where she overblows the problem with misogyny and stuff like that, but overall it's, she's more of a net positive than a net negative. Same thing, I'm subscribed to Thunderfoot. I watch some of his videos. Most of his videos are pretty good. There are times when he quote mines the shit out of people, times when and it's deliberate. You can tell that it's deliberate. He's doing using really shady tactics. But by and large, he's more of a net positive. Same thing with TJ. So I just wish people would be more open to, I don't know, people with dissenting points of view. You don't have to agree with someone on everything. For me to write someone off completely, they would have to do something really, really egregious. Like, it would have to be something that I feel like really, really passionate about. It really affects me personally a lot, and I just can't stomach listening to this person speak. But, I mean, you saw it, Puro, in the comments section when you saw Algawa and Indifferent Sky, or whatever her name is, just the accusations of bigotry and racism and sexism, and I mean, I'm like some sort of fucking monster, even though I guarantee you I've done more in the name of charity than either of those two combined in their entire fucking life. I'm a vegan for ethical reasons. I contribute thousands of dollars to charity every year. I volunteer at an animal shelter every other weekend. So, I mean, these are things that I guarantee you most people don't do, and yet I'm labeled the fucking bigot and the racist and the...
Well, I totally agree with the sentiment of your comment, but it's worth noting that I dislike both Rebecca Watson and Thunderfoot in the majority of their videos.
So really, even though, like, I assume most of their content you agree with, though, but you just can't stomach them enough that you just can't watch any of their videos?
Well, I mean, most of Thunderfoot's I disagree with, and Rebecca Watson.
Really?
It's hard to say. I disagree mostly with what she said too. I have defended her and her right to say, "Hey, this guy in the elevator was kind of creepy," but
Dude,
I don't
she
agree.
doesn't ever
But I
talk
don't
about
agree.
that. Like,
I know, but I don't
she
agree. He was
rarely.
that creepy. No, she's a decent person. They're both decent people. They have a right to go ahead and say what they want. They're both entertaining. Thunderfoot polishes some videos, and when he did just talk about science, fine. But I mean, that's not the majority of what he's done. But anyway, mostly it was for comic effect. That I'm glad you like both of those people, even though you may or may not disagree with them. And I happen to dislike them in the same way. It's like I don't hold it against them or say they're bad people.
I guess I'm willing to look past. I'm more tolerant of dissenting points of view than most people, I guess.
Yeah,
and I
also am. Those are just two that I disagree with, even though Rebecca Watson is on my side of a lot of the results of what she thinks. I happen to dislike her. In spite of that, you happen to like her.
She rarely talks about feminism or anything like that. It's very
she points out atheist things. I totally see what you're getting at. So yeah, go ahead.
May I come in on something? Okay,
Absolutely.
just trying to quickly fabricate a closing statement.
You got 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll be fast. I just want to say I don't agree with the same conclusions you guys have about the police at all. And those of you who have listened to me speak here before know where I am on that. But I also want to say that I think there is something regressive about the social justice warrior kind of concept, and not all of it. I mean, there's some really good stuff going on there, and it's generating an overall helpful and healthy attitude, in my opinion. But one of the problems with it is this fixation on trying to fiddle with narratives and trying to say, oh, well, there are some narratives that need to be reevaluated. But there's a notion of trying to close off discussion to persons from outside of supposedly affected, well, usually more affected groups. And that makes it quite difficult. I think it started off as a very open type of movement, and now it's become quite closed, but closed in an unacademic sort of fashion. Sometimes you find with social science type conversations, they progressively become more complicated and sometimes more academic. But with the social justice warrior movement, it seems to be more the case that the sort of the more reflective discussion is coming into the fold, and it's being rejected by this sort of more populist mainstream position. And I think that's one of the serious problems. I do think that when it comes down to ethnic politics, that's also an issue. I do think when it comes down to politics to do with capitalism and classism, that becomes an issue as well. I'm going to be honest, and I do think that this sort of turning of this fixation on trying to support the right people as opposed to the right ideas is a very, very serious mistake.
Yes.
I think that the outlook of that has been quite harsh. I'm going to say that yes, I do think that I'm not retracting what I said about the working class, at least as far as I can recall it now. I think that it doesn't necessarily adjust to the sort of the consciousness that it needs to have, and you can see this in the tabloid culture of the British Isles, including Ireland. I'm going to say that, but also in terms of just a lot of the stuff that people in the working class seem to be into. It seems to have a very sort of strong fixation with the concept of humiliation and stuff like that, and trying to say, well, I outsmarted you there. You thought you were so great or something. It's just it's too much about one-upsmanship at times rather than actual effective protest. And honestly, my experience has been, while being on the left, seeing an awful lot of people who actually would be from the supposed dominant classes, the middle class and yes men as well, present.
Yep,
Thank
it's
you.
called
I do believe in the
political.
coalition.
Yeah,
I
it's
believe
called
in the coalition
it's
thing.
called
That's
political correctness run amok. That's basically what it is in a nutshell. And
I
I
mean, there's a
completely agree with
problem.
everything Vivian just said. So there you
Yeah,
go.
there's a problem when it's too much of any one class. It should be integrated. So it can be a problem where one or other, some part of strata is not involved. So anyway, for those of you, I really enjoy that there's you guys in here that are willing to, not worry about these so-called current perceptions or whatever, and whatever you'll talk about these issues and face up against really the strongest social justice warrior argument there is, which of course I mean me and Steisel and Mike and Infamy if you want in.
I mean, you said my name.
And Infamy if you want in, I'll share this. Why the fuck not? I'm obviously off on a winging it here. No, I think it's a really good debate. You guys obviously have, credible positions, and I agree with a lot of the sentiments and the things that you say. So I think it's a good kind of debate to have in terms of something that's so volatile, supposedly, in regular culture. Like they can't have really these debates on CNN these days or Fox even. It's got to be one-sided or it's got to be no-sided. There is no really two-sided thing going on. I mean, I missed the old McLaughlin group and even Crossfire. But anyway, so yeah, thanks you guys, and it is yep, I'm cutting it. I'm doing pretty good timing. We're a minute and a half away, but let's.
Well, I just want to say thank you for hosting.
And thanks everybody for coming.
Thanks for having us.
All right, bye.
It's been emotional, people. As always.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I love you to heart. I heart you. I'm making a heart symbol with my fingers. Okay, bye.
Read more Sam Harris, everyone. Read more Sam Harris.
Oh, no. Read more Henry George. Henry George.
Read more Kropotkin. Read more
Kropotkin. Read more Klein.
Ambrose Bierce.
Okay.
All right, bye.
All right, cheers, you guys.
Peace out.